All right, welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Share this out, share this out, share this out. All right, it's Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Friday night, Friday morning, depending on where in the world you are. Share this out. Law of One. We are on session, I think, 20 now. I'll have to look once we start playing, but I believe it's session 20. So it's kind of cool. We finished the whole session last week. Denise, welcome. And we're still at the beginning of this. Dawn is asking about the transition from second density or dimension, density dimension. Density is what they're talking about, which I covered last week. Raw never actually refers to dimension except for when they refer to this as our illusion. That's very telling and important for people to realize. And it is important for you out there in the world to actually realize that from a higher plane perspective, they never once refer to this as a dimension, as a real place. And almost everyone in history, if you go back and read, who are or were awake, will tell you this is an illusion. In the South America, Central America, South America specifically, region of the world, there's an entire species of people, an entire race, a couple that just disappeared off the face of the earth, not to be found anywhere else on a migratory pattern wise. Right? Samir, welcome. I see Samir said hello. Welcome. So the entire, civilizations that we call the Incans and the Mayans, especially, and a couple of others that were South American based civilizations into Central America and Mexico, those people disappeared without a trace, not to be found anywhere. No mass destruction like Pompeii, where there was a volcano and we found all these bodies. None of that. So these people disappeared, and to this day, I've looked into it. Is there mass graves? Is there a whole bunch of dead people piled somewhere? Where did they go? That's why people who are, alien enthusiasts will say, "Oh, well, they all got taken off world by some third dimensional spaceship as prisoners." But that's not the case. If you look at their religion and their philosophical and spiritual thought, at the time, all of a sudden things changed for them and they started referring to this place as the illusion and the dream, and that there was a higher place. And this became the normal philosophical, spiritual ideology of the entire race just prior to their winking out of existence. That is very telling for anyone that is a theologian or that will call themselves a theologian in any way on this earth. Science won't acknowledge that stuff as anything other than they must have been a drought and they must have all walked away. Yet when we ask them, then where did they go? Where's the influx of more than 2 million people per city that showed up in other places around the world, even as slaves? Where is this mass amount of human life show up at the time that these people disappeared or any time thereafter? And they have no answer to that. Never mind that now. Never mind that now. Take a look at this over here. And they don't want to even engage. I've tried to engage people for decades in these kind of conversations. And even the I say that about all religion, neocon religions that are still available and know that I have 4 titles in 4 different religions. So I'm not speaking from an atheist point of view or someone who is anti-religion, although I am anti-orthodox, box taught religion, because most of that is corporations, worldwide, large corporations, no different than Facebook, YouTube, Amazon, or any other large company worldwide, Anheuser-Busch, Frito-Lay. They all have the same agenda to dominate the world with their product. That is what all the modern religions are as well. It's all they're concerned with was building the biggest temples and the most. Starbucks is no different than the Muslim religion or the Christian religion or the Western Judeo-Christian, the Judaism, or any of the modern religions on the world. You see them springing up all over the place with big, huge, statues and monuments and big buildings. Why would they be doing that? Purely because they want to be the biggest, the strongest, the hugest. They want to have a big impact and show we are huge. We're so big. We can create these big, huge buildings, just like, the Mormon churches here in the United States. I'm sure they're worldwide as well. Do they do good things? Yeah. Is there people within the churches? Yeah, absolutely. You need to know that. You need to be aware of that. That the dynamic on this earth is 14% are evil. That is it. All the rest are in service to others and they're good people. So even at the very, very least, the churches, no matter how corrupt that people think they are or preach to you that they are, they're only 14%. And of that 14%, usually 1% of that 14% are the ruling class. That is the way it is on this earth. So 1% of the entire population of evil people are the ones that are in control. So you can't look at a country and say that country is evil when it's 1% of even the politicians. It's 1% of or at least the ruling class, 1% of the people backing the government itself, because most of those people don't want to be seen. Pardon me. Most of those people don't want to be known or seen. So they're literally hiding behind closed doors where you don't get to know who they are because of the atrocities that they're pulling on the world. They don't want to be seen out of fear that they will be persecuted for the things that they've done. They'd rather the figureheads take all the blame, the ones that are come and go, that are not permanent, that are supposedly elected by the slave class, right? So that's why that goes on that way. So don't think that I'm coming from a standpoint of all religions are completely corrupted and nobody should be going into those boxes. You just need to know, like everything else, if you're watching television, you should know that commercials are going to come on and they're going to lie to you on the commercials and say that they're the greatest product on the face of the earth. And everyone that you see on the commercial is going to tell you that. The same thing with whatever programming you're watching. There's an agenda by whoever filmed that, whoever wrote it, whoever directed it, whoever produced it, whatever channel that it's on. There, you have to know that. Okay. So looking at the entire world, you have to always be aware of that. That's why I did, and I'm going to redo, and I found most of them, by the way, the Defense Against the Dark Arts. I'm probably going to redo and talk about that in more detail and do episodes on that as well. I'm going to need to, I think, because of everything. Cassie, welcome. Because of the way things are going, I kind of put some of that in my book, but I didn't get it. I should have did an entire chapter. Maybe I'll do it in the next book. An entire chapter, or maybe I'll add on to this book. I have 7 chapters right now. I was trying to keep it to 6 and just have really long chapters, which everybody in the industry would be really annoyed with. that my chapters are, many pages long instead of being the dynamic, that they always have. And most chapters you can count how many pages and assume that they're all going to be pretty close to that exact amount. Everyone has this equation and in their heads about the way everything is supposed to be. And that was set down and always has been set down by people who are trying to control the narrative. They are, in fact, evil. So if you go along with that, well, a book is supposed to be written a certain way, just like you can't write any kind of scripture of any kind unless it's worded the same way they worded things 2,000 years ago to 4,000 years ago. If you use modern wording, then people will say this is just some guy ranting on the internet because it sounds just like everyone else. So you have to sound the way they sounded back then, which back then they said, this is just some guy ranting in the desert, just like everyone else. Honestly, they thought that about John the Baptist, that he was just some crazy hippie, some crazy homeless guy out in the desert trying to drown people. That was what they said about him at the time. Jesus was another one who was just crazy and talking nonsense and talking about one God as opposed to the many, because at the time, all of them, except for the Hebrews, they were the only ones teaching one God at the time. Everyone else had 10, 12, 100, 50,000. You had a God for everything. The God of the water, God of the tree, God of the root, God of that rock over there, God of the air. There was a God for everything that controlled everything. The Egyptians talk about that there was a God that created your left ear, another God that created your right nostril, a different God who created your right elbow, not the same God who created your left elbow. I've read all of that. That's no joke. So literally there's a God that created every piece, a different individual. That's why when you read all of that, when someone says something about a God, people go, oh, here we go. There's that word that was given to everybody for everything. And theologians who are trying to figure things out, most of the time, scientists especially, physicists who are atheists or don't believe in any kind of deity figure or Godhead, they'll immediately start pointing that out. Just like all Christian religions who are non-Catholic, which is the original Christian doctrine, by the way, I've researched that. They can trace their roots literally back to the 12 apostles. Everyone says, well, I don't know. They worship saints. No, they venerate saints. There's a difference. Look up the word veneration. Look up the word venerating someone who did something. They canonize them because they did miracles in God's name while they were alive, and they did God's work above and beyond anyone else at the time. And because of that, they should have that status to the world to be remembered. Oh, that's evil. We can't do that. We have to fight against that and say they worship like God's saints. And that's not what they do at all. You should learn about things instead of listening to what someone else is telling you. And that's why I say that. And I say that about everything that I say. Don't believe a word I've said. Look it all up for yourself. Because if you do and you go down those rabbit holes, the only thing you could ever do is save your soul and be informed and learn knowledge and ascend and gain a universal knowledge that only is attainable by ascension. So don't believe anything anyone ever tells you. Look it up. One of the things as I was growing up, and one of my sisters used to bug me, was she always asked questions like, and I did too, and I guess it really bugged everybody else as well, but she was always, how do you know that? How do you know that? And she's always been that way. I've never tried to stifle her from being like that because I was that way. I just never said it out loud, where she says it out loud all the time. And I told her that was one of her greatest traits. And maybe I don't say it often enough to make sure she hears it, but that's one of her greatest traits, because she doesn't believe anything anyone says. She always, her whole life has gone, well, how do you know that? Where did you learn that? She's always wanted to know how you gained that knowledge. And even if you said, I don't know, I just know it, she still wanted to find out why and how you just knew it. So she's always been curious that way and never trusting anyone. And she doesn't have to be told. don't believe anything anyone says, because she looks it up. So when she was doing that with what I said, she would say to me, no offense, but I looked that up. I'm like, none taken. I hope everyone who hears my voice and anyone else's voice never takes what they say as the gospel, so to speak, and looks it up, even the gospel. And I tell everyone that if you're reading any religion and any doctrine or text or whatever it is, don't just take it at face value and believe that it is in fact what it says that it is. With the corruption that's going on in this earth, on this planet or any other planet for that matter that is third dimensional. That is there as a teaching thing. It's there to try and trick you. It's that is the nature of the beast. That is the number of the beast. And that even referred to in the Bible when they say it is the number of the beast, the nature of the beast, the number of the beast is 666, 6 and 3 score and 6. And that is, and now they say that is a number of man. And that's wrong. They've translated it wrongly in the modern day to separate and not allow you to know that it is, in fact, the number of the human condition and beast that is the human condition. They've completely changed just in my lifetime, reading, even going back to the 1500s with the King James Version, not that I'm still alive from the 1500s, mind you, but reading that as a child and as a young adult, and then reading the new modern versions and listening to modern churches when they say those words about 666, which if you go back far enough, there was more sixes. It wasn't just 3. When the farthest back I've seen is 6 sixes. And I've heard that there are 8 in older scriptures. So literally, thank you, Cassie, for tagging people. So literally, there was more 6s. In fact, if you hear the original, even from the Coptic and Greek into modern English or Old English translated into modern English as the King James version, it was 6 3 score and 6. That doesn't mean 666. 6 3 score and 6 means 6. 3 score means 666 and another 6. 6 3 score and 6 means 6 6 6 6 6. Okay, so that's 3 4 5 6s. So even in the old the Old Testament or the old English version, if you do the math and they tell you that the math doesn't work that way, and 6 3 score and 6 just means 666, well then why and 6 at the end? Do you understand that? Do you understand that? There's too many 6s here. They're saying 6. Welcome, Penny. They're saying 6. Then they're saying 3 score, which means 666 and 6. So how can that mean only 666? 3 score and 6 is all they had to say. That means 666. But 6 3 score and 6 means 6 666 and 6. Okay. I'm just doing the math the way that it is written in the words that it is written in the translation. So everyone just goes, that means 666 because it's 6 3 score a 6. No, it's 6 3 score and 6. So if I'm writing down a check in English today and I write and 6 at the end, or if I don't and I write 6 3 score, so now I'm writing 666 and 6, everyone's going to think I just wrote a check for $6,666.06 because that's what that means in English. Okay. So my point here is that you need to pay attention to what's being said to you and don't take everything for the gospel, just like Raw. I try to tell people that you can't take it as the gospel. You have to take it for what it's telling you and then research it to see if it makes any sense. And people say, oh, that was just Carla making that up in her mind. Well, she made up a lot of points that science didn't prove until 40 years after she said it. So either she was one of the smartest people that ever lived and was able to see things that no one else saw, in which case what she's saying is still true, or she was actually channeling someone who was seeing the world from a perspective outside of time and space, in which case what she's saying is true. Because if she made it all up and just thought that she hasn't been disproven, is my point. There is nothing that she has claimed where someone has gone and said, yeah, see, that's just not true. We never found that. There's nothing to back that up or corroborate that. At the time, people could say that, and that's just like, if I predicted something in the future, you could say, well, all right. And then if it comes true, then you go, he got lucky. He got lucky. Let's see him do it again. And then if I did it every single time, then you would say I was possessed by the devil or the CIA was talking to me because somehow the CIA knows everything. That's what I laugh about the girls in the Czech Republic, not at their abilities, but I hear people that used to work for the government going, that's just the CIA. And I'm like, really? So the CIA has the ability to channel. I've said this before. They have the ability to channel, and they're intercepting all people who are trying to channel anyone else, and they're able to detect that and do that. Okay, and then they're feeding them lies and false information that is in fact coming true. All this because they're driving the narrative. I'm like, okay, so what you don't realize here in your theory, and this is the theory of everything, what you don't realize in your theory is, then what you're saying is that CIA is aware that people have this ability, and they've decided to make sure they had the ability. That also means that they've contacted somebody else. That means there is someone else out there besides us, and they don't want anyone to know about it. Otherwise, there'd be no reason for them to try and intercept contact from people on this earth trying to contact anyone else. And then in doing so, change the narrative of what's being done on earth. That still, no matter what you say, corroborates the fact that there is someone else out there that they don't want anyone to communicate with here. So they're trying to lie and change the narrative. But in doing so, they're giving out this free information that is literally information that comes true, that's helping humanity. So why would they be doing that? That's like people saying, don't go into the light, it's a trap, and there's this evil race of beings here in 3D that have constructed the earth entirely as a penal colony, and they created the human race out of monkeys so that they could steal your soul and stick it into this human body. Well, why would they need to do that if they can grab your soul and erase your soul? Okay. Why would they need to do that and to literally erase your soul and then have you trapped somewhere in a physical human body when they already have you captured and they've erased your soul, so you don't even know you're captured, you don't know what's going on, and they could just hold you there indefinitely, and every time you start to remember, zap you again? Why this elaborate ruse? Why go through all of this to bring everyone down here, to put them here? Well, because they're trying to gain the most precious thing in the universe, gold. Weird, because we have so much of it. Nobody's been collecting it lately because we have so much of it. It's just piling up. We're putting it in people's teeth. We're putting it in drinks. There's even a commercial on TV where someone's putting it on top of a freaking cake for people to eat. I mean, let's be serious, okay? Let's be serious with all of that and figure out all of what the heck is going on there. Right. So it's not that at all, because everything that we call precious on this planet is in fact so readily available, including diamonds, that you can mine them and go out and find them and just constantly pick them up and walk away with them from everywhere. And so if it were in fact, if it were in fact, hit the wrong button and turn the sound on from the show over here on one of the pages here. I didn't mean to do that. Checking to see if what the signal looked like, and I hit the wrong button and turned it on, so I apologize. So literally, you need to figure out what it is that's going on and pay attention, right? So let's get back to starting with Raw now and literally start. Wayne, welcome. I didn't see you there because I was off screen for a second there. I wasn't looking at the chat. So let's get started with session 20, but you need to really quickly, again, let me retort, let me digress. You need to literally not believe every word that comes out of anyone's mouth until you have validated or vetted them into, realizing that they're not trying to lie to you. And you can't listen to people who are like, well, that person's just making it up in their head. Really? Because the truth is, Carla said a bunch of stuff that no one knew about for 40 years. And then all of a sudden we knew what she was talking about, and she got that from Raw. So how does that sound to somebody when well, she got lucky? Oh yeah, really? She didn't get unlucky ever. So again, like I said, if she made it up, she was making up some really cool shit. Peter, welcome. And if she, and it was stuff that's true. So it gives you the idea that maybe you should pay attention a little bit to what she's saying, right? All right, I'm going to hit play. We're going to start this session, and give me a sound check. Somebody let me know. I'll make sure the sound's loud enough, and we'll go from here.
February 9th, 1981. 20.0 Raw. I am Raw. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite creator. I communicate now. 20.1 Questioner. I was thinking the best way to do the book is to continue working on the history of evolution and its mechanism until we completely make it through the third density and what will occur into the first part of the fourth density so that the mechanisms of developing the mind/body/spirit complex will be brought out. If I get stymied someplace in one of these sessions as to what questions to ask and where not to waste time, I may ask some questions that I will use later in the book, but we'll try to always continue along these lines. First question, to go back just a little bit, is what happened to the second density entities who were on this planet who were unharvestable? I assume there were some that didn't make the harvest into the third density. Can you tell me this? Ra, I am Ra. The second density is able to repeat during third density a portion of its cycle. 20.2 Questioner. Then the second density entities that did not get harvested at the beginning of this 75,000 year period, some are still in second density on this planet. Were any of these who remained in second density harvested into third density in the past 75,000 years? Ra, I am Ra. This has been increasingly true. 20.3 Questioner. So more and more second density entities are making it into third density. Can you give me an example of a second density entity coming into third density, say, in the recent past? Ra, I am Ra. Perhaps the most common occurrence of second density graduation during third density cycle is the so-called pet. The animal which is exposed to the individualizing influences of the bond between animal and third density entity.
And as my cat just jumped up on the table and was trying to walk across the computer, she's still trying to figure out how to get over here. She was sleeping. I didn't know where she was, but just prior to going live, and I looked around for her, and she must have been under one of the beds, and I wondered where she was, and I thought, well, she'll pop up at some point. Literally just as Ross started saying that, she popped up, and she tried to walk over, but I have it blocked off, so she can't because she did that before, and she'll do that. She'll walk across the computer, and she'll change the channel, do something. She's done that, get everything all messed up, so I don't let her walk anywhere near the computer anymore. I have a picture of her from about a year ago that I posted on Facebook where I was sitting up at night and drinking. I used to drink back then before I quit drinking. And I was playing a video game, playing World of Warcraft, as a matter of fact, still play it. And she wanted my attention and I wouldn't pet her. So she literally walked across the keyboard and sat down on the computer, laid down on the computer to get my attention. I laughed so hard I had to take a picture of it and post it for the world to see. That's how much she wanted my attention. She was like, oh no, I will not be denied. Okay, so funny that she came up here just now. Home, could she was looking at me over there, and literally Ross talking about second dimension pets moving into in transitioning into third dimensional beings.
Individuation causes a sharp rise in the potential of the second density entity so that upon the cessation of physical complex the mind/body complex does not return unto the undifferentiated consciousness of that species, if you will. 20.4 Questioner. Then can you give me an example of an entity in third density that was just previously a second density entity? What type of entity do they become here? Ra, I am Ra. As a second density entity returns as third density for the beginning of this process of learning, the entity is equipped with the lowest, if you will so call these vibrational distortions, forms of third density consciousness, that is, equipped with self-consciousness.
So literally, that's why, right? I talked about this, I think, off air with some people during this last week. Literally, that's why some of the people that you see that are walking around, as you ascend and you start getting the eyes to see, I call it to people, you actually start becoming more of a seer than you realize, and you start looking at the world. You literally instantly look at someone and go, this is their first life. And you don't do that because, like, I know some people who are more awake than I am, but this is their first time here, and I know that. I've seen them, and I'm like, they're wanderers. That person has never been on this earth before. This is their very first lifetime on here, but they came here to do what they're doing, right? And so that doesn't mean that they're less than in any way. No one is. But my point is that what people misconstrue about the ascension is what's being taught. It's what's being taught by all of the churches, especially the Christian ones, because they're talking about the rapture and they all have you believe. And Ra kind of comes across that way if you're thinking from a Christian standpoint, you're going to see it that way, or the Hebrew standpoint, or the Muslim standpoint, because they all have the exact same teaching from going back to the exact same beginnings. And literally, you will get the idea that everybody is supposed to graduate all at once. And that just cannot happen. Can't. The only way that that can happen is if no new souls are being introduced into the mix, first of all. Okay? No new souls can be introduced onto the planet. And then everybody has to wait at least 10 lifetimes, because it takes 7 to 10 lifetimes. No matter where you already were, you have to wait for the one who just came in. So that's the only way that everybody can graduate all at once. Do you see? And then it makes it increasingly harder if nobody is playing the part of every step of evolution for the human soul. Then your learning curve slows down exponentially the less and less people are below you for you to experience. And the less and less people that are evil in the same token. So this is the hardest thing for people to grasp, and this doesn't usually become aware in your knowledge and understanding until you get to 5D thinking, honestly. And I don't mean 5-dimension. Everybody misconstrues this octave with the higher octave, which is the sub-octave to the higher planes. Okay, so meaning everyone thinks that we're physically in the 5th dimension here because I'm aware of myself, that gives me 3rd dimension. And then because I'm spiritual, that gives me the 4th. And then because I realize infinite wisdom or knowledge, or the one true creator, that means we're now in the 5th dimension. That is just poppycock. That is just the worst thing. That's just stuck. You are still in the egoic mind thinking how great we are in this little teeny place. And that we are just so much better than everyone else in the universe. That's just wrong. You're in the 5th. You're in the 3rd dimensional place. Period. You might ascend in your consciousness to a 4th and 5th density, and that is in the spiritual realm. But you are still plugged into this avatar here. You are not in a brand new place. Look around. Everyone's still exactly the same as they were when you left a second ago, when you closed your eyes and had that thought. Okay. It's still the same place. So you're still here. You haven't transported into a different place. However, things do change here and morph into, and that's when it gets a little complicated. So in the respect that people are saying that they believe that we're going to make this place transfer or transcend into a higher belief, that's actually true, very, very true. But are we literally going to all of a sudden become the 5th dimension? I would love to think that that's going to happen, but that's just impossible, because you don't get to jump over thousands and thousands of years of ascension and learning. Because if you could do that, then you could instantly catapult someone who is a cat into a higher plane of existence right now. We can just do it. And my cat, my dog is poof in front of me, evolved like Red Dwarf, the comedy show from England from the 90s, which was hilarious, where the cat, they were stuck in hyperspace or in whatever, long enough for this cat to live long enough to evolve into a human being, but still think it's a cat in some ways, which is funny. It's a great concept for a comedy, but it's just, so the cat evolved. So the cat is eternal and has never died and lived long enough to actually evolve by itself without dying into a human being. Weird that says that humans came from cats, not primates, but hey, it was funny for the show. Okay, so that's my point. And that idea is just as silly, that literally everybody here, the whole Earth's going to just change, and all of the life forms that are on Earth that are actually alive, the Earth itself, the air, the water, the trees, the plants, and everything is just going to wink out of existence as we wink into a new existence. And weirdly, if we do that and there is an existence already there, we're going to be sitting in somebody else's house. when we wink in, or the middle of a street, or in the middle of a forest, or whatever the changes were made from what your house is now. And then you're not going to have a home. You're not going to have any source of living. And you're just going to go poof and pop in and go, what the hell? Now I got to find civilization, and then show up and go, hi, I just got here as one of the people that just popped up because we ascended. And they're going to go, oh, crap, more of you guys from down there. Now goes the neighborhood. All right, go over there and get in line, and we'll give you some stuff. Think about that. Right? Think about that. So it's not going to be just like that. Is everything going to change? Everybody can imagine that. And then all of a sudden I just have another house and it's different, and I'm there and I have the memory of all that now, and I'm in a different reality, and anything's possible. And I would say everything is possible. Doubtful, but possible. So you have to go through the process. And I go through this whole entire thing to explain that just because you are ascending right now, currently, and you look at another human being and you go, wow, that guy is just a monkey. Whew. Wow, that one's here for the first time. That doesn't actually mean that the person is actually here for the first time. That person could be a wanderer, or it could be somebody who's doing it backwards, who when they got here, they wanted to ascend first. And then they had to learn all the other things, living life, survival, all of that other stuff. And now they're doing that in the reverse order from what you're doing it in. Okay. Other people are coming in to play the parts, and they plug in for extra credit when there's not enough of something. And it's not, evil people don't do that. And it's not a lot of people that become evil as well. Some will, if there's not enough evil. They'll do that, but that makes it harder for them, and it's a really big sacrifice. So that's kind of rare. Evil is as evil does anyways. So because people have that free will, that will manifest, and people will do that because everyone has to go through that. But some people are doing it for the first time because they've already done everything else. You have to realize that. People don't even think that way. Everyone thinks so linear because that's what they teach you, that it's 0 to 100 and everybody graduates, because that's what we do in schools here. You go, 0 through 12th grade, and then you go to college, and sometimes there's a middle grade in there. And then you go to college, and then you go and you get a job. And so because of that, your mindset is we're all going together. But think about that. You're in a class of your year. Right? So how can this concept even get into your head? Where does it come from? Because if you're in it, no matter where you are in school, there's only a certain amount. It's finite, 40, 60, 100, 1,000, million, whatever your class is, that year at that school is limited to the amount of people. It's not everybody on the earth all at once. So why is it that everyone assumes and thinks this way about the entire species? That we're all supposed to graduate at the exact same time. And then even Ra explaining the harvest, everyone gets that in their mindset, because now we know what harvest means. If I'm a farmer, that means you grow all the crops, they all grow at the same time, and you go out and harvest all of them all at once. But that's not, and I don't think Ra ever explains that. I don't think Dawn ever asks about the harvest and what's the average number of people that are supposed to, because then Ra would literally say that's relative to the time and place of where they're at. And I think that's what Ra said. Yet, when you listen to churches, they're talking like there's this one moment, and that if you're not good, be good for goodness sake. They start talking like Santa Claus, which has nothing to do with that. And that Jesus said he's going to come back, which is not written anywhere. Okay. There is nowhere that Jesus said, I will return to get you guys when you're ready. Wait here. I'll be back. I'll be back. All of a sudden, it's Jesus Schwarzenegger. Get to the chopper. He's going to come in. He's going to come back and go, I am here. I am here for your souls. Get to the chopper. Go. Hurry. Run. Get to the chopper. Do it now. And everyone's going to have to run. And then there's going to be limited space. And all of a sudden, they're going to go, that's it. You are all left behind. Go. Driver, pilot, fly away. Leave these ones here. And everyone's going to laugh and flip them off with your ego and go, ha, 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 I made it. You did it. Think about what that sounds like. Put that into perspective of how that's going to happen. And then the other idea, like the Left Behind series, where people just disappeared, shit's crashing out of the sky because the pilot ascended and everyone else gets to die, right? Because the pilot got to go to heaven and now all those passengers just get to fucking blow up. Pardon my American. Think about that. Car crashes, people dying, running over, car things flying, and people, oh no, we're all left behind. Now what do we do? The whole world came to an end and we're all left behind. It was a great series, made a lot of money. But I remember when it came out in the freaking 90s, right after The Secret came out, same religion came out with the Left Behind series. And I remember looking at that and going, what they're telling you is we're the left behind now. That's what they're trying to tell you in all of that. In all of the Left Behind series, they're trying to say that when Jesus left, he took the souls with him. He was supposed to. Weird, because no one ever said anything about that. And that Jesus came back and we're just the left behind and we just don't know it. That's what you're getting from it, whether you know that or not. I remember looking at it and asking people that were awake, not very many because I didn't know very many back then, but asking anyone who saw it or read it, what do you think the actual message is that they're giving in here? And they're like, well, that we're all sinners and we're not going to heaven and that we're the left behind. I'm like, okay, I thought that was just me thinking that in some way, on some level, and I just wanted to check with other people. So anyone who was awake, even now, if you go back and watch the Left Behind series, that's the message you're going to get. The messages that you're going to get is the same message that the Hebrew religion has been teaching from the beginning, that you're guilty until proven innocent and that you're going to hell unless you have water chucked on your head and my hand waved over your face and do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it. Pardon me. That's literally what they're all teaching, if you pay attention. And that's why I tell people you got to really be careful with just believing what they say without questioning anything. Okay, let's continue here.
20.5 Questioner. This would be a human in our form then who would be beginning the understandings of third density. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. 20.6 Questioner. Speaking of the rapid change that occurred in the physical vehicle, the change from second to third density, this, you said, occurred in approximately a generation and a half. Body hair was lost and there were structural changes. I am aware of the physics of Dewey B. Larson, who states that all is motion or vibration.
Right, I wanted to address that. Cassie, thank you for addressing Denise's question, because Denise said, is there any way of telling how many lifetimes I've had? And Cassie's answer to that, she said, I think she answered before that as well. She said, she mentioned, Denise has an interesting comment. I don't know if there's anything before that. I didn't have my glasses on, so I'll have to look. But she's talking about past lives. I'll have to go back and look at that. But she says, Cassie answers her with, she says, but sister, I don't think that the actual number is as important as focusing on this life now and the lessons that you're supposed to learn to ascend and grow. Our past lives knowledge can help us in understanding our souls and what we know is true in our soul. And see, and I agree with that. We become obsessed. I've said this many times, so it was a great answer, Cassie. And I agree with what Cassie said, Denise. We become obsessed with who was I, what did I do, what did I learn, and what did I speak, and where was I, and that's just another way of getting stuck here. You're literally focusing on something that your soul is no longer focusing on, because you've already learned that when you die in this lifetime and go to the reflecting place and then the place of planning after the place of healing, if you need it, you're going to reflect on what you've done in every life and the one you were just in and see what you need to learn. So the truth is, what Cassie is saying there, that the life that you're in is more important than the ones that you've had before, because you've already learned those things. And if you haven't, you've already set that up in this lifetime for you to learn what you didn't learn the last times that you tried to learn them. So the truth is, and this is why it becomes very important, the truth is what you're supposed to achieve and attain here is the moment. That's what we're trying to attain when we teach meditation, and what you're trying to achieve when you meditate is becoming clear and sentient in the moment, outside of the reach of this place, outside of the reach of the ego, outside of the reach of the thinking mind, outside of the reach of the pain body, even though you're still experiencing it, but so that you can have that organic experience. That's what we're supposed to do. So obsessing on spending your all entire days looking to psychics and mediums to find out who you were and what you did in a past life is kind of like trying to obsess about what I did yesterday and what I could have, what I learned from yesterday, and never learning from what I'm doing currently, and never, so you're literally just spending the time looking backwards. We either look forward or we look backwards, but nobody looks at now. Nobody. That's our biggest problem, is because we have past and a future separated from the now. No one pays attention to the now, because it's either what I did in the past and I'm worried about that, or did I get the stuff done right, or what do I have to do in the future? It's never what am I doing right now. That was the biggest lesson for Luke Skywalker that Yoda kept saying, never on what he's doing, never here in the now. And literally, that's just, people go, oh, it's just a movie and it was just Yoda, it's just some fake character puppet. The truth is, the words that he is speaking, yogis, gurus have been speaking for generations, countless generations on this earth to other human beings. Okay, where do you think they got all of that from? The entire idea of that religion that was the Jedi way is a culmination of all of the Eastern philosophical, spiritual contexts put in space in the future, or in a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Okay, so literally, it's the same ideology. So it's teaching, it's well taught, well researched, and everyone's like, they just made shit up. No, they didn't. It's borrowed from everything. The Force is literally the tree of life. It's literally the wheel of life. It's literally the pneuma. It's literally all of that, the logos. Okay, so it is that. Science is even getting to the point where they're going, well, yeah, okay. They don't want to admit it, but it's literally that, right? Right now, see, now Mitch is getting kind of with, Anunnaki. I have a problem with that, because the Anunnaki doesn't exist. The translation was translated wrongly by Zachariah Sitchin. There was not a single word Anunnaki. It doesn't mean an entire species of people. Zachariah Sitchin, even when he translated it, called it the god Anu. So it was one individual who was borrowed from the Akkadian word Anu, the Akkadian god, which is the Greeks that lived next door. And he didn't translate the word Na, and he just went to the word Ki, which means comes. So the word Na was not in his vocabulary. He didn't know what it meant, and he didn't even translate it. So he used the word Anu, comes. What's the word Na? What does that mean? Where does it attach to? Okay, so the words, first of all, in their dialect, when they wrote, the entire tablet has no spaces in between any words. So all words have no spaces. Like you have a whole paragraph right there, and there's a space after every word. They didn't do that. So the people who were reading it had to figure out, just like, and they have a Yiddish and the like was also written the same way. The original Bible was written the same way in Sanskrit. So they have a reference as to how that kind of works. The actual translation of Anunnaki was Anunna, one word, second word, Ki. And when you put the word Na with Anu, it doesn't mean the god Anu, it means royalty. Anunna means royalty. And the word Ki. Okay, so now everybody, then in 2012, Giorgio Tsoukalos in the Ancient Aliens television show translated the god Anu comes to the earth as those from the heavens came, those. And that's when it became Anunnaki as a race and species. And then they replaced the Nephilim from Planet X in 2015. So the Nephilim is no longer the people, the race of people that were on Planet 10. It's now the Anunnaki. And then they added in 2015 the word Anunnaki as a god on the Mesopotamian tree of life, which it wasn't there until 2015. And it was because of a wrongful translation. Okay. So the Marduk reptilian fashion. Marduk was not a reptilian. He was a god, but he could be referred to that because of. And I agree with you there. Right? So I do agree with you there that because at the exact same time, the people that we call the Anunnaki now were those people who showed up here with a little bag in their hand holding the pine cone. So that's the only reason why I don't have a complete tizzy about the Anunnaki, because that's what we're calling them. But I agree with you. They were, in fact, the people that changed our entire civilization into this caste system that we have now, although I haven't read your whole thing here, what you're saying. Yeah, controlling our world, for thousands of years. Yeah, absolutely. So, an Enki would be more closely, and Enki's not an Anunnaki. Enki was a completely different race by the people who wrote the name Enki. But I agree with you. Whether or not they're reptilian, there's a lot of evidence that they are, and that's why I like what you're saying. That's why I'm talking about it, because the reptilians live inside our planet and have for a very long time, right? So literally, and I like this because you're giving this knowledge, using the term Anunnaki and an Enki. Because that's familiar to the people that are here on the earth, but they came through the Orion system. I know that because I chased them out of there and followed them here, along with a lot of other millions of people on this earth who did so. And then many more in the billions that are wanderers that are here now. So Mitch goes on to say, let's see, in fact, I think it's two people, right? Because it says Mitch M. Henley, and it's a picture of a female, I think. I can't tell. So I don't know if you're one of a person that has a dual account with their husband or spouse or whatever. But no, I agree, right? So literally, this person is saying that Enki was a human, right? A human genetic scientist who lost the war on Earth and went back. They came through the Orion system, but they're not from Orion. Agreed. Just like they came through this system, and they're on their way currently to the center of this galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, trying to conquer it, being chased by us the entire time. Those of us who, because the Blue Avians, they destroyed the Blue Avian planet, and the refugees, a lot of them became wanderers and are here currently. I know this because I am from there as well. There's not a lot of us left in the universe, but we didn't like the idea that they blew up our entire planet, so we're chasing them around and defeating them in different places. But I was in a different carnation or different soul in a different body when they also invaded over in the Orion area, in the belt of Orion, which we followed them island hopping, as it were, from solar system to here. So I agree with everything you're saying there. I get annoyed with the catchphrase of Anunnaki, but that's no different than calling somebody by their race, right? And that's a word that people are now putting together with that entire ideology. So I'm okay with that, and that's why I only specify that it was wrongfully translated. But again, what do you call them, right? We call them the Orion Crusaders because that's who they called themselves when they went through there and ran from us at the time. But that's not who they call themselves even now. When they came here in 1948, I've done that 25 episodes or so, translating the telepathic communication between Errol, the alien entity that was here that didn't happen, quote unquote, at Roswell, New Mexico, and wasn't questioned by the CIA for about 3 months. All of that information did not leak out to the world when the woman gave it all to everybody just before she died, because they couldn't do anything about it. And they called themselves something different then, right? So they have a different name even when they got here. But yes, were they reptilian? Some of them. But you have to remember that some of the reptilians already were on this earth and have been living in it for a couple million years, just like that other human race that lives, in Antarctica underneath the ice there, in the center in a different layer than those people. The people of this earth, I don't know how much you know, Mitch, but the people of this earth don't realize how many races live in the inner part of the planet. They have no idea. The humans think they're it, and the most intelligent life in the entire universe, and we're like cavemen compared to the other races that have been on this planet for far longer, that are far more advanced. And that's what you're getting into. So I'll finish what she says here. They came through the Orion system, but they're not from Orion. And she says the GF have been working with our Earth Alliance, collapse those. Wait, to collapse those. Sorry, somebody said something and my screen moved up, so I lost my place. They came through the Orion system, but they're not from Orion. The Global Force, I think, is what you're trying to say, right? The GF is working with Pure Earth Alliance to collapse those that has kept us under their control. Underground beings, seeing this is corroborating what I was saying. I didn't realize that you had said that. They have also committed crimes along with the dark military and are collapsing, and they are, and it's true. And I think you had more after that. No, you didn't. And I mean, but it is true that people don't know that here. So I don't talk about that a lot loud. I have in other episodes, not when I'm talking about the law of one, but it's absolutely true. And I know this because I worked personally with helping set up some of these alliances that are currently on this earth. This entire lifetime on this planet, I'm going to be 56 years old coming up in September. The entire, or I'll have to check my timeline here to see if I'm right. 57, I think I'll be, no, 56. So I had to look at the date to figure out my age. And literally this entire lifetime has been that. I worked for the Irish government as a whatever you want to call it, a spy for the Secret Service, and helped broker a lot of deals to free a lot of peoples on this earth and set up alliances and networks under many different aliases around the globe. For years. I'm not afraid to say that anymore. I used to hide that fact forever and didn't tell anybody about it. Only in the last couple of years, I've been actually saying it out loud, not afraid anymore, because the alliances have declared themselves independent from these people. And I've worked with those people behind the scenes for this entire lifetime, doing just that, along with people that are in this audience right now that you're unaware of, that I am aware of, doing the same exact thing. Pardon me, and in many lifetimes. So everything that this person is saying is true, but some of the names that we refer to them as are catch-all names that we've given to them that we don't necessarily know that that's what they call themselves. Like when people say the cabal or the deep state or the swamp or whatever you want to call them, those are vernaculars we use to describe those evil people that are doing bad shit behind the scenes that are controlling everybody and have been for thousands of years. That's all in my book, by the way. I actually break that down in my book, which I haven't published yet, Mitch, just so you know, telling the world about all of what you're talking about. Literally, I started that with Orion Rising, the book, and that was very esoteric and still is. And I didn't write the second and third book that's already in my head for that, because once I found out how true it was and that it was real, just with the names changed, I stopped writing that and I started focusing more on the now and the future instead of blowing the whistle. However, we do have to blow the whistle on the atrocities, because you're right. Literally, those people showed up here thousands of years ago carrying that little handbag and a little pine cone, saying we have the understanding of being able to control the humans' minds. That's why the pine cone is pointing. They're not handing you the knowledge like they're trying to get you to believe. They're actually trying to tell you that, yeah, the free republic, Peter says, right? They're actually trying to tell you that little handbag and the little scrolls in their waistline is literally the knowledge of how to entrap and enslave a third dimensional planet, solar system, which is what they've done. I literally break because of that. Now my it's cutting out. Every time I start talking like this, my Wi-Fi dips down. It sucks to be living near military bases where I'm sure they're paying attention to everything that I'm saying. But you can't live anywhere in this country without living close to a military base. They've set it up that way. To where no matter where you live, you're within 5 miles of a military base. That's just the way it is. And then if you don't know it, you're only a couple of miles above one, whether you know it or not. You got people coming and going underneath you all the time. Okay, so now that we've gone down that road and dipped down to the third dimensional thinking and pissed off some people probably who are listening. There he goes talking politics again, because they don't realize that that is actually the religion of the evil beings and people on this earth that are controlling you and have been. It's what Ra is warning everyone about in 6 books, 106 sessions. Okay. So, yeah, Peter was like, "What is Leo talking about?" I was talking about what Mitch was saying. Thank you, Cassie, because Peter's like, "What are we talking about?" He got here late and was trying to figure out what I was saying. Okay, so, but he knows what I'm saying is true, and he knows that what I'm saying is accurate because he's been a part of that for years and knows that. But that's why he's trying to figure out, well, how far are you going with this, Leo? What are you doing? What are you telling who and what? Let's get Ra talking more about second dimensional transition into third dimensional, and then he'll catch up to where we are. So let's continue.
Am I correct in assuming that the basic vibration, which makes up the physical world as we experience it, changes, thus creating a different set of parameters, shall I say, in this short period of time between density changes, allowing for the new type of vehicle? Am I correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 20.7 Questioner, just as a sideline, a side question here, is the physics of Dewey Larson correct? Ra, I am Ra. The physics of sound vibrational complex Dewey is a correct system as far as it is able to go. There are those things which are not included in this system. However, those coming after this particular entity, using the basic concepts of vibration and the study of vibrational distortions, will begin to understand that which you know of as gravity and those things you consider as n dimensions. These things are necessary to be included in a more universal, shall we say, physical theory. 20.8 Questioner, was this entity, Dewey, then, did he bring this material through in his incarnation for use primarily in fourth density? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 20.9 Questioner, thank you. Yesterday we were speaking of the split that takes place in third density when an entity either consciously or because of bias chooses the path of service to others or service to self. The philosophical question of why such a split even exists came up. It is my impression that as it is in electricity, if we have no polarity in electricity, we have no electricity, we have no action, we have no. Therefore, I am assuming that in consciousness without such polarity there would be no action or experience. Is this correct? Ra, this is correct. You may use the general term work. 20.10 Questioner.
I love how there's snarky Ra again, right? I love how Ra is just like, this is correct. You can use the term work. Never gets into any details right there. Right? Because the way Dawn is going at this point, he's kind of onto the workings of electromagnetic waveform, and he's not saying it. And we'll see if Ra continues down that road. If not, I'll stop and go down that road because that's actually more important. And I literally discuss that in my book, that people pass by that and don't think that at all. And I made a weird realization I'm not going to get into here because it was obvious but not obvious, and it was really bizarre when something simple happened, and that's usually how it happens. Something simple happened and I went, oh wow, really? Holy crap. Yeah, of course. How did I not see that? And that's everything that happens when you ascend. You always will giggle when you get to a higher levels every time you do it, and you'll go, how did I not see that? It was right in front of my face. And that happens over and over and over. And I just had one of those moments. Literally, was it yesterday? Day before yesterday, or yesterday. I don't remember which now. Time gets weird when you get to a higher place because everything starts happening now. And so the weird thing is you get so many deja vus, you're not quite sure whether you had a conversation with somebody yet because you have a memory of it and they don't. And you go, all right, that was a different timeline, or am I just seeing the future? So that's kind of weird. But let's continue and let Ra talk if he gets into any more details. If not, I'll talk about that a little bit more.
Then the concept of service to self or service to others is mandatory if we wish to have work, whether it be work in consciousness or work in the mechanical or Newtonian concept in the physical. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct with one addendum. The coil, as you may understand this term, is wound, is potential, is ready. The thing that is missing without polarizing is the charge. 20.11 Questioner, Then the charge is provided by individualized consciousness. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. The charge is provided by the individualized entity using the inpourings and instreamings of energy by the choices of free will. 20.12 Questioner. Thank you. As soon as the third density started 75,000 years ago and we have incarnate third density entities, what was the average human lifespan at that time? Ra. I am Ra. At the beginning of this particular portion of your space/time continuum, the average lifetime was approximately 900 of your years.
See, there's a difference there. I get into that in my book as well, but I'll get into that. And it wasn't actually being written about the law of one as I'm trying to swallow my drink of coffee and I'm choking on it. So Raw didn't really get into details there when he was talking about the electromagnetic, where he was saying if there's no energy, there's no electricity, then there's no soul. He just was like, yeah, and then it's polarized. And so he went down the polarization portion of that purely as in service to others and service to self. But he didn't, and I guess Dawn understood it because he didn't elaborate on it. But I would think that if he did, he would really be wanting to get clarification. So I don't think he really got 100% the ramifications of what he was actually saying there. Because everything is electromagnetic waveform. Everything is that. And that's why when people like Tesla say, and I just said this to my nephew, if you guys have watched any of my reels, I just put one up, I guess it was about a week ago now, about the Enigma of 24. And I sent the picture to my brother and said, show this to Sage. That's my nephew, my brother's youngest son, who's now 20 or 21. And a genius, not a joke. I'm not saying that because I think he's smart. I'm saying that because his applied math is already probably past mine, and I was going to be a nuclear physicist. And his older brother is currently going to be working for NASA, and he's going to be a nuclear physicist because he's also smart. And he hates rockets. And he said that to my brother on the day he graduated from Stanford. My brother said, now you can go to work for NASA and work on rockets. He said, I fucking hate rockets, Dad. And he says, why'd you do all this? He says, I want to know the real technology. Mitch would love this if you're still there, Mitch. I want to know the real technology that they have that they've been hiding. I can't believe that here we are. And at the time it was 2020, I think, in 2019, 2020, right at the beginning of COVID. And he said, I can't believe that here we are in 2020 still using the same rocket engine from 90 years ago. That's all we have. I'm not going to buy that. We went from covered wagon to the moon in the 60s. And from, in 60 years from then, the best thing we have is a handheld computer that we call a smartphone. And where's the technology that got us to that? And what? So he was like, Dad, they're hiding so much from us. It's got to be insane. And so I thought that was cool that he was smart enough to realize that everything they're telling us that we have is absolute bullshit. It can't be true. Can't be. We can't have a smartphone in our hand without having better technology than a rocket that shoots the fucking thing into space. Can't. There has to. That's impossible. It's impossible that we made that kind of, we have a computer I'm running this entire show on, and I could do it on my handheld phone, but yet we can't go into space with anything other than this big, huge, giant rocket engine that has to burn off all this fuel. And then the best thing we got is SpaceX, where we can land them instead of just jettisoning them and letting them crash into the ocean. We can actually reuse them over and over and over. That's our best technology that we've come up with in 60 years of traveling off world. Come on. Our cars went from, we had to stifle the engines from our vehicles because they got so good that they would take off into the air like rocket ships, and we had to hold them down to the ground so we could go faster and faster around a track and have a race. Okay, so literally they had to take the engines of the vehicles, which turned them into rocket ships, and go, well, we can't do that because everybody's just flying up in the air. So now we have to just stop. So that's why you have stock car. Stock car hasn't changed except for a computer running the stock car engine since it started almost 100 years ago. It's the exact same motor. Okay. So why is it that we're still driving these vehicles? Let's get into all that, right? I mean, that's insane. Why is it that we're still driving those when back when the vehicle was invented, our telephone was a device that we held up to our ear, and we had to yell into this speaker in front of us, and we had to take this little handle on the side and wind it and crank it. And some woman in another place who was a switchboard operator clicked in and went, operator. And then you said, call Joe over on the other side of town at 22725. Okay. And then they would plug into Joe and give his phone a ring, and he'd go over and go, hello. And hey, on the line is so-and-so. Okay, hold on. And then they would go click, click. And they would stick your line into that line to communicate with him. The car that we drive down the road right now hasn't changed at all, except for safety features and a computer to run and monitor everything in your car in that time period. And the phone is now a handheld device that's a camera, a recorder, can hijack and run the space program, can run all your you can run 1,000 drones in the air on your phone and tell them what to do and make different patterns. But the car we drive hasn't changed at all, except for a better braking system, a safety system, a harness that you wear in it, and a computer that keeps everything in check a little bit longer on its own and tells another computer what they need to fix when they need to fix it. That's it. That's it. Otherwise, it's the exact same vehicle from 100 years ago. Do you, and that seems okay with you? Okay, let's continue with Raw and get back off this track before the algorithm kicks us off the air. Let's go.
20.13 Questioner. Did the average lifespan grow longer or shorter as we progress on into third density experience? Ra. I am Ra. There is a particular use for this span of life in this density, and, given the harmonious development of the learning/teachings of this density, the lifespan of the physical complex would remain the same throughout the cycle. However, your particular planetary sphere developed vibrations by the second major cycle which shortened the lifespan dramatically. 20.14 Questioner.
And what was that? I think he gets into it, but I'm still going to talk about that. As Ra would say, our affinity for bellicose, violence, and lowering our vibration when they took control of the earth and changed everything to keep everybody at a low vibration to make them slaves, that lowered our life expectancy. Because for us to learn what we need to learn, we have to recycle in human form faster because we have a shorter time. And the reason for that is that if we were in a low vibration and lived for 900 years, we wouldn't learn anything. So the violence and being aggressive and being evil and pulling us away from, that's why he said the other major cycle, which means the evil portion, the yang to the yin, or whichever way you see the white and the dark, moving into darkness, moving away from the feminine energy into the masculine, shortens the life expectancy. Why? Many reasons. One, you're more aggressive, you're more murderous, so you're killing people and you're not eating as well, you're not learning all the things you're supposed to learn, so you're literally acting more like a second dimensional life form or a mindless animal, killing, hunting, and doing all these things. So because of that, you don't live as long. The longevity comes with wisdom and understanding or understanding and all of that. That's why as things have shifted, now we're living longer and longer and longer. And science will tell you that's only because we're eating better. But we're not. We're eating shit food that's genetically modified that is not healthy. So how is it that we're still living longer? Because we've changed. And this is what I talk about in my book and teach, and everybody else that I know that's awake is teaching the same thing. Ascension foods change your vibration. You can feel it and sense it. I tell people, do you want to do a double blind test? You don't even have to do that. It's simple. It's simple. I've done double blind tests or blind tests with organic food. But if you literally go and buy let's say a hamburger, right, from a fast food restaurant, come home and cook a hamburger, or cook a hamburger and send somebody to get the other hamburger and bring it back so that they're both just as warm and juicy at the same time, and then you eat a few bites of the hamburger that you got from a restaurant or a fast food restaurant, and let that sit with you for a couple of seconds, a few minutes, and feel the energy of it, and then you bite the hamburger that you made at home, unless you bought all crap food to go on it. Right, you know what I mean? But if you buy, real products, or moreover, grow most of the shit you're going to put on it yourself, and then eat it, you're going to feel a completely different amount of energy. Completely different amount of energy. Because when you go to a fast food restaurant, what do you have? You have kids that are on their first job, second job. They don't want to be there. They hate it. They can't stand it. And what they're putting into the work is, I have to fucking do this because my parents made me fucking get a job, or I have to live because I have no other choice and I need a fucking job. And I can't wait to get done with this so I can go and hang out with my friends and not be here. So all the energy that they're putting into making your food is absolutely none. And if there is any, it's an all negative, as in the mindset of, I'm a slave. But when you cook something at home, the person who's cooking it for you is cooking it because they want it to taste good. And they're cooking it for you because they're proud of doing that. I'll cook you with something that you're going to like. They're proud of it, and they're putting energy into it. That translates. And you need to be aware of that. I've been talking like this since I was 13 years old, and people thought I was insane at 13, saying these crazy things. And that would have been, at 10 would have been 77. Okay, so we're talking like 1980 on this planet. And literally people were looking at me like, where did you come from? You're not even from around here. I get that. You ain't from around here, are you, boy? And I lived in an area where they didn't talk like that, but they started talking like that anyways. All right, let's continue. So the life expectancy, let me bring you back around. Life expectancy got less because of our violence and turning away from the feminine energy and getting out of balance, purely done on purpose to us, mind you, by these Orion Crusaders, to keep us in this position. Evil people are stuck here, so they need you to be here so they can make all the money and hand it down to their relatives over and over and over and over, and see themselves as a legacy, because they can't. They're stuck in that 6 3 score and 6. That's the whole purpose of telling you that. It's a broken record, 6 6 6, because all they know is the energy of the human being and the energy of nature and time space. Those are 2 3s. That adds up to 6. And you can't go past that, so you're stuck at 6. And so you keep hitting that wall, 6 6 6 6 6 6 6 6, over and over and over till you change your ways. And that's literally what they're trying to tell you in all these books. But it was, altered in some ways to get you to believe that, literally, I talked about that in the beginning of the show, that the translation went from, it is a human number to it is a number of man to it is a number of humans, right? Because you can't say the word man, but the word human, just put an H and a U in front of the word man, and it becomes a different entirely word, and it's acceptable. But just saying man, as in a generic for the race, is not acceptable. But saying human somehow is different. That's like saying right Twix and left Twix, or saying my house, right? Or saying casa. Well, it's a completely different word, but it's just a different language that means the same thing. You're aware of that, right? Sometimes it's redundant when people say that. Right. It's funny when they use the same word in a different language. And I'm like, you realize that they just said that word twice, right? Once in English and once in a foreign language, like, Greek or Roman or Italian or Spanish. And people don't notice that. They don't see that. I just laugh, when they do. They went to a restaurant one time with Casa Maria. And I was like, so was Maria your grandmother, or does Maria own the place? And the waitress was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, well, we're in Maria's house. Well, no, sir, you're at Casa Maria. I'm like, you realize the word casa means house, home. And Maria is Maria's house. This is literally Spanish. Casa Maria means Maria's house, house of Maria. So, and they looked at me like I was weird. It was just like Hefeweizen. Now, I had to always tell people when they say, you want a Hefeweizen? No, it's pronounced Hefeweizen. I had a waitress argue with me. No, sir, it's pronounced Hefeweizen. I'm like, no, it is not. Who taught you that? My manager. Go and ask your manager. I'm going to go ask my manager because you're wrong. I'm like, I know German. I know the word is Hefeweizen. You don't even know what the word means. And I'm like, I do. Go and ask your manager. And if your manager doesn't know that, you need to bring your manager back. She came back and said, sir, I apologize. My manager said it's exactly what you said, Hefeweizen, not Hefeweizen. And I'm like, I'm glad your manager knew that. I'm like, you should make sure that when you're selling something and it's a foreign name, specifically a German beer ale that is actually something that's very popular in people don't want. That would be like saying, do you want to have a piece of pizza? It's a pizza, not a pizza, right? You see my point, right? Do you want to have some chicken? Chicken? Cluck? Right? I mean, someone's going to say, do you mean chicken? Right? And that's a different word in every language too. Schickling. What language is that? Where's my Swedish speaking fans that are normally in here? Right? Schickling. Where's the Swedes in the house? Right, let's continue.
Assuming a major cycle is 25,000 years, at the end of the first 25,000 year cycle, how long was the lifespan? Ra, the lifespan at the end of the first cycle, which you call major, was approximately 700 of your years.
Right, that's funny. Right, Rick said probably from Tallahassee. That's hilarious. I think I love that. That's funny, bro. All right, let's continue. So life expectancy got less because of evil, and this is where we're at.
20.15 questioner. Then in 25,000 years we lost 200 years of lifespan. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 20.16 questioner. Can you tell me the reason for this shortening of lifespan? Ra, I am Ra. The causes of this shortening are always an inharmonious or inharmonious relational vibration between other selves. In the first cycle this was not severe, but due to the dispersion of peoples and the growing feeling complex/distortions towards separateness from other selves. 20.17 questioner. I'm assuming at the start of one of these cycles there could have been either a positive polarization that would generally occur over the 25,000 years or a negative polarization. Is the reason for the negative polarization and the shortening of the cycle the influx of entities from Mars who had already polarized somewhat negatively? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. There was not a strong negative polarization due to this influx. The lessening of the lifespan was due primarily to the lack of the building up of positive orientation.
See, so negative orientation or literally pulling people down in vibration to the negative was literally what happened. So if nobody is teaching, right, and then so what happened was at the end of the cycle, the people were more sparse around the planet, so they didn't. You didn't have somebody that was ascending around them to teach them a higher perspective. Things will degrade if people are not being taught that or not having access to it. So that's what they did here, was took away that access generation after generation and convinced each generation to burn the books and destroy all of history, which is what they're attempting to do again currently. Literally around the world today, you have the youth of this world being taught that they need to destroy all statues, eradicate all history, change the names of anything that was named after anyone who did anything good, and call that person a racist for some reason, or find a reason, depending on the country, that you're anti that ideology. Get rid of it. And that's what they're doing again, because too many people are ascending and they need to degrade this entire generation again. So they've gone after the youth, which is what they did in every time. That's the Hegelian dialectic. Once again, it literally go after the youth, start with them and teach them before they're awake enough to actually, brainwash them as early as you can before they can wake up to ask any questions. They don't give them any answers, give them lies, teach this critical race theory worldwide, which is what they're doing, and teach them to hate the country that they live in, hate the people that are, and be afraid of their own relatives, their own family, their own parents, hate them all, blame them for everything that's ever happened to you, but expect them to pay you to do nothing and sit on your ass, and literally get rid of all this history because it's evil, it's racist, it's against you, it's keeping you down, and you need to eradicate it all. Why? Because they're trying to put the whole entire species back to sleep again. They can't eradicate it with a disease or with weapons, which they've tried to do, and you guys are unaware of that. They've tried to do over and over in your lifetime. They've orchestrated and planned the mass murder of 3/4 of the population of the world and tried to implement it more than once. You would be surprised at how many times they've actually attempted to do this. But for us to tell you all of this will freak you the fuck out. You'll all get scared, and you'll put your head in the sand, or you'll run scared thinking that they're in charge and that they're, even though they've been stifled and stopped and stymied every single time from doing so. that it will that won't resonate, because fear resonates more than it's very powerful. So that's why we don't talk about it. And even me saying it right now is going to scare some of you out there listening to it. What? Oh my God, they've almost killed us. They haven't, because we have stopped them over and over and over. Well, then how come you haven't stopped them completely? Because that's not how it works here. That's why we're trying to teach you the knowledge of that. But yes, and so Cassie puts a great point up there, which they are pissed off about, because every attempt that they try to make is changing that. Cassie says, and I'm going to put it up on the screen for you to see, but these are her words now, but the younger generation are really waking up more and earlier than people think. That's because there's more and more that are coming through that are in fact wanderers, to augment what's been happening and what they're attempting to do. So they got this generation that's after mine, but not all of them. The amount of people that they got a hold of, they tried it with us. I'm a Gen Xer. They tried it with us, and what they got from us was the scariest generation they've ever faced, and they're afraid of us even now, because they desensitized us to all of the violence on the earth, and they thought they were going to make us into psychos and just murderers, and that didn't happen. And literally we woke up, and now we're looking at them and going, you're an anachronism, and when you die, we're not going to do anything to stop it. We're going to let it happen to you. And that freaks them out, because they're like, wait a minute, you don't care if I'm alive or dead? No, you took that away from us. You took the ability away from us to care about you. And now you're freaking out. So then they went after the generation behind us and decided they have to make them more violent. So literally that's what they started doing. But we have to make them less violent. So you have the Gen Y, and those people are all, super passive, and that didn't work either. And they all started waking up, and now they're passive, but they're waking up and they're contributing. They hated that. So then they went after the next generation. They realized that people were coming in, like Cassie was saying, and waking up. So then they gave everybody shots and inoculations to close their third eye. That didn't work either, because it's not supposed to. And those people that were changed have now even woken up even faster in a way that they didn't anticipate, and they're doing everything they can do. So then they came up with world hunger. That didn't work. And then they came up with the diseases, and that's not working. So they're getting more and more desperate, and it's not helping. The more that they don't realize, this is how stupid they are, honestly, and I'll say that out loud, they don't realize that the harder they try, the more they're driving everyone to wake up by doing so. So literally when people are like, we have to fight them and stop them because they're evil and we're at war. And I'm like, you need to stop thinking like that, because that is what they want everyone to think like. That is what they want you to do, because then if everybody, look at January 6th here in the United States and look at the same version of that, which I don't know what the date was in Brazil, but they did the same thing in Brazil. And they tried to do both of those because they were trying to get rid of and lock up an entire half of the population. They were literally getting ready to and talking about openly going, we need to make all of these people go to jail. They literally, this was a coup attempt, and your only history is going to bear that out, because people don't want to know about that now. But January 6th was a coup attempt by the progressives. And when I say that, don't think that I'm a Republican, because a third or a half of the Republicans were in on it. Okay. Not all the Democrats were in on it, and not all the Republicans were in on it, but there was a good portion. And if it was 100%, it would have worked. Okay. So it's not, but there was a good portion, and the same thing happened all over the world. Look at Canada. Okay. Both political parties were in on what they did, and people are now going, wow, they're taking away all of our human rights. Well, until you guys stop them, they're going to do it. Okay. They're going to do it until you have enough. And if you guys don't, then you're going to be China in a few years, but under a different name. Okay. And that's what's happening all over the world. They're trying to do that everywhere. So everyone, look what's going on currently. Well, maybe you guys don't even know about this. What's going on in France currently? Thousands of people are being arrested per day. Thousands per day are being arrested in France. That country is coming apart, and the citizens of that country are about to overthrow the government. And I'm not making this up. This is not, what's the word that they would use? This is not hyperbole. This is actual fact. You should pay attention to what's going on in the world. If your news agencies are not telling you about what's currently going on with the population of France, then you guys are being controlled just like America is, because you don't hear that very much over here in this country either. I've tried to look on all news agencies. They mention it briefly on a couple of them, like Fox will mention it briefly, but no, the rest of them, they don't even talk about it. They don't want anyone to know what's been going on. Cassie says, yeah, I've seen that too. Absolutely. Right. So what you have to realize is that both parties are in on it. There is no war. You need to get that through your head. There is no I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a progressive or a conservative. If you choose either one of those sides, you're choosing the same religion, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to choose red or blue, whatever the color that they go by, and whatever vernacular they use in whatever country that you're in. Unless you're openly in a dictatorship, and then they don't care. It's either our way or you get killed, or like they do in the kingdoms over in Saudi and the like. With the I'm in charge, King Fahd, and if you say bad words about me, like I'm saying now, they could put a price on your head and try to kill you over it because you don't say anything bad about the king. Don't ever. If the king is a god. So that's why if he was a god and he was so powerful that somebody lowly human can say something bad about them, oh, well, we have to prove it by sending people to murder you to prove how much my reach is. You're not a god then, because a god could just think I'm dead and I'll die. That's what gods can do. So the fact that you have to order some human being to come get me and pay them money to kill me, then that tells everybody in the world should be paying attention. That's not a god. That's a thug. Okay. So what you need to realize is that there is not a single politician. I can't say that. I was about to use that blanket term again. You have to realize that the majority of the people everywhere who seek power are evil. Let me say that again. The majority of everyone everywhere who seeks power everywhere is evil. And you can see it when they get power, how they change. If somebody gets power and all of a sudden they start acting in a way that you go, wow. But then, you also have to be careful that you're not just doing that because they were your friend a minute ago and now they're acting like a boss. Right. And then some people get that and they go, oh, his head changed. He became a boss. And then all of a sudden he started giving orders. Well, it's the job of a boss to do that. You're aware of that, right? So you have to look at that from a realistic standpoint. But you can tell the people they don't take long to show you their true colors when they're evil. They don't, because they get a little bit of power and they start to abuse it in some way. The second, I remember a guy that literally was working at a movie theater, and I was applied there, and I was at a party, and I didn't know who he was, but he was one of the managers. He was a lieutenant, right? What's that word? Assistant manager. I apologize using a military term. And he literally came up to me and said, hey, I heard you applied to go to work at this movie theater. And I said, yeah, I did. And he goes, I can get you that job. And you know what my response to that was? My response to that was, yeah, and how much money do you have, right? He actually got offended that I said that. His feelings were hurt that I said that. He turned out to be not a nice guy, right? So, but he was honestly like taken aback that he was trying to be act like the big guy and hey man, I can get you that job because I'm cool. And when I gave him reality of, oh yeah, and how much is that going to cost me? How much money do you have? And he said, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, nothing is for free. If you're telling me you can get me that job, you're trying to tell me that because you want fealty. You want me to be loyal to you in some way or pay you off in some way so that I get that job. Otherwise, why would you be telling me that unless you're just being honest? But you wouldn't, if you're being honest, you wouldn't be saying, I can make that happen. That's coercion. And he was kind of offended, but in a sad way. I could see it in his eyes. I was, look, bro, I'm just kidding. If you can get me the job, that'd be cool. But just know that I'm not going to be your boy or your bitch for doing it. I'm not going to owe you something. He's like, no, bro, I was just saying, I think you're a cool guy. And I was like, all right, if that's true. Well, it turned out that I ended up getting fired from that place because I talked to him one day. Because he had ripped the place off and he borrowed money from me. And he came to return the money, but he was also asking me about whether or not they were talking about him. And I said, no, bro, I can't talk about that. I'm sorry. I can't talk about that. I can't tell you any of that because it's part of an investigation that I could get fired over. Well, little did I know at the time that the guy who was investigating literally changed his clothes and came out. I hadn't met him yet. He came out and was walking by us and listened to my conversation. So just because I was talking to the guy, he assumed that I was telling the guy this stuff, and they called me in and I was off duty. They called me in and they literally fired me because they claimed that I was telling him what was going on. And I'm like, I don't know who told you that, but I didn't tell him anything. I told him I couldn't talk to him about that. And I have witnesses that'll tell me that. They'll tell you that. And they're like, no. And we understand that he borrowed money from you. Yes, he borrowed $50 from me and he was returning it. And he probably did that because he knew his job was in jeopardy and he needed somebody to talk to find out any information. You're absolutely right. He tried to pump me for the information. So I didn't fight it. I was like, all right, look, you guys are obviously looking for scapegoats now, because I literally, if you had somebody that was standing there listening to our conversation, that person's lying to you right now, because our conversation went exactly like this. And I can bring in 5 people that were standing there listening to the conversation, where that you can go get them without me telling them to tell you anything. And they'll tell you the conversation went me saying, I can't talk to you, bro. But they didn't want to do that. And I was like, okay, so you're just trying to fire to make an example. So you're trying to fire me. So I was 17, I think at the time, 18, maybe 19. I think it was 19. So I got fired from that job because I spoke to the guy and they saw me do it. Right. So do you see? So I was right. My instincts about the guy is my point. My instincts about the guy, because of what he said to me years earlier, was correct. And he was ripping people off. And so had I not said any of that, I'm sure that they would have gone a completely different way. And I would have known far more. If I was stupid, I would have probably figured it out. But I never trusted him from that point on, because who talks like that? Nobody talks like that. But I mean, at the time I was already working for the Secret Service. So I already had spycraft training and all the training from my father. My father had just passed at that time. I was 19 when he died. In fact, that was just prior to his death, I think, or right afterwards. So my point is, we literally stopped living as long because of all this bullshit that we take for granted here. That's a normal thing, when it wasn't normal on this earth until these yahoos showed up. Who was that person that was here earlier? That Mitch, who apparently disappeared after making that comment, unless Mitch is still here and just hasn't spoken at all since. That literally, because of those people that got here when Mitch was talking about it, and this is what Raw's warning about. They changed something here that changed everybody and made our lives go from 900-year average down to, we were at a 37-year average when America was born. 37 years from 900 years. Think about what that change was. And now that 37-year average, the average American at the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence was 20 years old, 22 years old. That was the average person who lived here during the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Okay. Right now, currently, the average age of the average American is 69. So literally just in 138 years, we've doubled our life expectancy just in this country alone. That's how much this place has changed in 150 years. Doubled the life expectancy of the human race. Oh, well, we're just eating better. No, they were eating better because they were eating organic. They were eating far better than we're eating now. The nutrition level of their food was 10 times what our nutrition level is, but yet they didn't live as long. Completely different lifestyle compared to us now spiritually. And that has to do with everything. And that's what needs to be retaught. That was what was taken away. Not just your free will, but literally spirituality was taken away. Personal spiritual growth was eradicated from this planet. 90% of it was eradicated, and we're trying to reintroduce it to the population currently. We have been for thousands of years, keeping it, hiding it, planting it, teaching it over and over and over, and until now, and then it's exploding exponentially back to the population. Let's continue.
When there is no progress, those conditions which grant progress are gradually lost. This is one of the difficulties of remaining unpolarized. The chances, shall we say, of progress become steadily less. 20.18 Questioner, the way I understand it, at the beginning of this 75,000-year cycle, then, we have a mixture of entities, those who have graduated from second density on Earth to become third density, and then a group of entities transferred from the planet Mars to incarnate into third density here. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 20.19 Questioner, what continue? Ra, You must remember that those transferred to this sphere were in the middle of their third density, so that this third density was an adaptation rather than a beginning. 20.20 Questioner. Thank you. What percentage of the entities, roughly, who were in third density here at that time were Martian, and what percentage were harvested out of Earth's second density? Ra. I am Ra. There were perhaps 1/2 of the third density population being entities from the red planet, Mars, as you call it. Perhaps 1/4 from second density of your planetary sphere. Approximately 1/4 from other sources, other planetary spheres whose entities chose this planetary sphere for third density work. 20.21 Questioner. When they incarnated here, did all three of these types mix together in societies or groups, or were they separated by group or society? Ra. I am Ra. They remained largely unmixed. 20.22 Questioner. Then did this unmixing lend to a possibility of separation of group, then, or the possibility of warlike attitude between groups? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. 20.23 Questioner. Did this then help to reduce the lifespan? Ra. I am Ra. This did reduce the lifespan, as you call it. 20.24 Questioner.
See, so people don't realize that, right? So there are still people currently on Earth that are still Martians, that are still haven't graduated yet, right? So when they got here, they came in and basically were a societal structure, and they were still hashing out some of the issues and problems that they had. The people that are here now, that the reason that we have nuclear weapons on this Earth currently is because the Maldekians and the Martians wanted to still come through and show that they could have these weapons and not blow the entire Earth up. That's why you have some of these people that are evil, that are literally wanting to blow the world apart, because they're the same group of people that have done it already thousands of years ago, and they still haven't learned, and they're still stuck in 3D on the evil side, and they're still trying to do the same shit over and over. Okay, that's kind of scary, but it's true.
Can you tell me why 900 years is the optimum lifespan? Ra. I am Ra. The mind/body/spirit complex of third density has perhaps 100 times as intensive a program of catalytic action from which to distill distortions and learn/teachings than any other of the densities. Thus the learn/teachings are most confusing to the mind/body/spirit complex, which is, shall we say, inundated by the ocean of experience. During the first, shall we say, perhaps 150 to 200 of your years as you measure time, a mind/body/spirit complex is going through the process of a spiritual childhood, the mind, and the body not enough in a disciplined configuration to lend clarity to the spiritual influxes. Thus, the remaining time span is given to optimize the understandings which result from experience itself. 20.25 Questioner. Then at present it would seem that our lifespan is much too short for those who are new to third density lessons.
Yeah, that you're saying that true. And that's unfortunate for the people that are coming through that are doing that for the first time, that we're second density and are moving into this. They're having a harder time, but they don't know any different. They don't know that. So that's what you need to realize as well. Everything is condensed, so it's just natural for them to go through what they're going through. It's not like they had it another way and now they're stuck in this way. So there's a lot of people here that had it another way. So they sense on a higher plane that things have changed and that it's not right. Those are the ones that call out for help. The other ones, they're new. They just don't know. They think this is just the way because it's always been that way for them. They've never witnessed anything other than that. Than this. Let's see what Ra has to say about it.
Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Those entities which have, in some way, learned/taught themselves the appropriate distortions for rapid growth can now work within the confines of the shorter lifespan. However, the greater preponderance of your entities find themselves in what may be considered a perpetual childhood. 20 point.
See? So those people who knew that it was things were different when everything got condensed, they're literally realizing that they're in a perpetual childhood state. And now this corroborates literally what I say when I talk about this and I guide people, and they kind of look at me like, what? When I say literally, even the IQ test is based on the fact that nobody, and I said nobody was over than the age of 18. And I thought that I was correct in that, and I was wrong, and I hadn't corrected myself because I just looked it up between last week and now, and it was actually that no one is over the age of 15 mentally, maturity level, 15. And that if you do test above 15, you have a higher than average IQ, and if you test above 18 years of age, you're considered a genius. That's true. You can look it up. You can actually look at it. I was having a hard time because I was like, it used to come up right when I said it. I'm like, I must have worded it wrong. So I changed the wording and literally got the actual test of literally the research that led to the IQ, the intelligent quotient test. And that research literally says they grade on a bell curve. The average person's IQ goes somewhere between 70 or 80, 70 being really, unfortunately, very simple-minded, to 100, and some cases they'll tell you 110. So the average is about, and which I don't know how it works that way, because the average, if 70 is the low end and 120 is the high end, why do they say that everybody fits somewhere about 100? Because that's not. If you take an average, there it would have to be 70 to make 100 be the average. It would have to be 130. Okay. So if you're shifting it to 100 or 110 or 130, the average is lower, 70, 80, 85, 90, 95. But they say 100. And so let's just say they say 100. That means that you're 15 years of age mentally, literally. Okay. And that's at you're an adult. That's at your adult mind. When you're a worker bee and you go to a job and you're doing, that's where you're at then. The average person. 15 years of age mentally, and Ra literally just said that anyone who's had this prior to just the veiling being the veiling, but the life expectancy being so much shorter, that literally you stay in the perpetual state of childhood mentally. You never actually live long enough to become an adult unless you live quickly and arise quickly. So over time, if you do it right, you're learning and learning and learning and learning. Eventually, when you come through, you're going to wake up a lot faster, no matter what they do to you, because you've already learned everything. And so what it's going to happen is they can't keep you in this perpetual state forever, because you just eventually, everything. And so then you start crying out for help. And this is what happens with a place that gets stuck. And then other people come here to change the narrative back to the way it was, so that it unlocks the potential, or gives the potential to unlock that ascension back to the people. And the problem is that when they change it, everybody gets stuck and they don't have the knowledge to do so. So you have to have enough people that are awake enough to realize that it has to be a change and start making that change. And that's literally why people come here. And that's also part of the actual plan. It's not like people think that, they went against the laws of the universe and this never happens and people don't get stuck. They do. It just doesn't happen to every single third dimensional place. It's not, it is rare, but it is not something that was unplanned for. It's not natural. Yes, it is. Right. So it's not that these people, usurp the matrix and they're evil and they're equal to God and that evil could win. This is all part of the design. Even the being stuck is part of the design. Why? That gives people of a higher plane the opportunity to, because in the higher planes, sacrifice, self-serving to those who are in service to self. The ultimate sacrifice is doing this. Okay. So literally you have to think, and this is 6D thinking. I'm pulling you guys in a way that probably is going to pull some of you out of your comfort zone. Okay. And I pull you up to the edge all the time. And now I'm going to pull you past that. Here's the edge I pull everybody up to. Getting you to 4D and 5D thinking is the place where you look back and realize this is a dance and that it's necessary, and evil is 100% as necessary as good, and that it's okay and there is no right and wrong, which is like the very first thing Ross said back in session 1. There is no right and wrong. and that all of this is supposed to happen no matter how horrifying it seems when you're talking to or having it happen to you here. It always happens to the young and the innocent before they're awake, and then it still happens afterwards. But those are the ones that they're targeted more because they're still veiled, or the veiling has just hit them. So they haven't had a chance to in any way become unveiled. So that's when they get raped and pillaged more than when you get older, because you get older and you can also take care of yourself better. You're a smarter thinker and wiser. And so because of that, you may have had time to train yourself physically to beat dude's ass if he's trying to rape you, whatever. Okay. Have a gun because it's legal for you. You shoot the fucker dead. That kind of stuff changes. And so they don't want to go after that. That's just like when you don't have people walking into a police station to commit mass murder because they're going to get shot before they kill more than 2 or 3 people unless they just open up with an automatic weapon. And then they have to have body armor on, and they're still going to get killed. So they go to a movie theater when nobody has any guns, and then they open up on all the people and they get to kill a bunch of people before they end up getting killed. Do you see my point? So you're going to have people go to places like schools because the possibility of someone having a gun there is literally like 1%. So that's why they'll do it. Same thing with if they rape somebody, they're going to go after somebody that they can that they can take advantage of and incapacitate 100% of the time, or 99% of the time. They're not going to go after somebody who's a female cop with a gun or tasers or hand-to-hand combat skills. They're not going to try that because they're going to end up getting themselves broken off. Do you see my point? So literally, the reason I say that is that lowering the vibration of the entire planet to a childlike race is the best place to take advantage of people and continue to take advantage of them over and over and have your way with them and do whatever you want. Literally, that movie just came out on the 4th of July, right? That is literally about a true story that Jim Caviezel filmed that happened in real life. True story, 100%, where this man quit his job and went hunting for, and it's what he did. He was, he worked for government agencies, military, and he quit that job to literally go and save people because literally they tell you that sex trafficking alone, not just slave trafficking, they're talking only sex trade, sex enslavement. They're not talking about people that are slaves. So just sex slaves, sex trafficking in the world is more than $100 billion a year profit. It has nothing to do with the drug trade. It has nothing to do with the slave trade. It has nothing to do with human smuggling because people are paying them money just to get them to another place. Each one of those is more than $100 billion a year money-making scheme. So if you put them all together, just the drug trafficking, slave trade, human trade, and sex slave, you're looking at $500 million profit per year. And usually more, probably $750 billion profit. Just the smuggling of, not even the selling of. Okay? So just smuggling the drugs is going to get you $100 million or $1 billion. Just smuggling the sex slaves, just smuggling the personnel. That's going to get you $100 billion or $1 billion. Okay, $100 million a year. Then you're selling the human being to another human being to rape and pillage, or to be a slave, or the drugs on the streets, or the cost of the person that is now paying you because you sent them there, and now they have to work that off as a slave for a certain amount of time, and then they become free or whatever. So the biggest industries on this earth is that. Better than car sales, better than war, better than any other money-making corporation on the face of the earth. You need to realize that. You need to know that. The most money on this planet comes from human trade. And I'm not even talking about the gobbling up humans and selling them to aliens or humans for them doing something physically to them medically, or research, or food, or off-world slavery. Not even talking about that. I'm just talking about trafficking people and drugs into the United States of America or around the world. Okay, you need to realize that. Some of the things that we know that we don't tell you about is so scary that if I tell you about it, you're going to, first of all, think I'm crazy, but I must be making this up because it can't fucking be like that. Even when people come out and tell you that it is like that, people don't want to believe it because you want to live in a box that's linear because that's what they put you in. And it's easier for children to put their head under a blanket or under a pillow and go, this is not happening, this is not happening, this is not happening. Tomorrow will come, tomorrow will come, tomorrow will come, and everything will be fine. And that's the mindset of a child, to hide, to pretend it's not real, and just go with it. I'm not dead, I'm not dead, I'm not dead, it's okay, I'm not dead. And then they threaten you in some way and make you believe that threat. Evil people do that all the time. You know how many people I know that were in marriages where their husband or their wife was exactly that way abusively and threatening to kill them or other people in their lives if they, don't you leave me, I'll kill myself. And if not, I'll kill you, then I'll kill myself. Anyone who says that is evil. Get away from them, run, go to the police. That's what they're there for. Go to the police and tell them about it and file a restraining order no matter how much it costs. Go on fucking line and ask for donations, right? But prove that it's real and that you're not just fucking ripping people off, because people do that too. Everything that is to help people, you're going to have evil people doing to try and make money off of good people, always. That you have to learn that for yourself. So our life expectancy has gone way down because of this bellicose, this affinity for violence, fear, anger, aggression leading to the dark side. Literally, we were led away from that thousands of years ago. And people were like, oh my God, they control us and we're all, it's just, their evil is everywhere. And that's what they're projecting, because the more that they're losing this place, the more they have to make you think, because they want everybody to go back to, that's the way you think, is that I am nobody, I am nothing, they are in charge, they can kill me, they can get to me anywhere, anytime, and they can destroy us, and they're in charge and they own the world. That's what they want you to think, because as long as you think that, that's what everybody has thought for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years in some places, tens of thousands of years. People have thought that. Believed that their leaders were gods. The Romans taught their people that they were gods. There are still people on this earth today. The Koreans believe that their leader is a god and that their family are gods. The English will have you believe the same. The Queen talked about being related to Beowulf and Thor. That's God status. But they don't use that term anymore because no one believes that in Europe, but they're still telling you that they're related to them, that they can trace their roots back to a god, which is a lie, because if that's the truth, those of you who live in the UK, if that's the truth, that means that your king is an invading Viking. Because the English people are not Vikings from the north. You guys were Woads. You guys were English people. You guys were the Crusaders fighting against the Saison, the Saxons. That word Saxon is Middle English. The Old English word was Saison. That was literally a Merlin said that word to Arturius, who was half Woad and half Roman, who became King Arthur. The word that was spoken to him was Saison. That means Saxon. It's the word that we know now. The Saxons and the Crusaders, they were not the same people. Saxony. All of those terms came from the invading armies of Vikings who took over England all the way down to one province. Your people wrote a television show about that called The Last Kingdom. You should watch it. Okay, that's an English show about your own history, about how you almost lost the entire nation when Ragnar Northbrok invaded and his children after him and all the Vikings that came with him and literally started living on the island of England and Scotland and invaded it and took it all over. The only English people that were still alive were in the southwestern part of what is now England, in one place. I believe you called it Wessex. Okay. And that was it. And then from there, you guys retook your own kingdom. So the people that are now English and Irish and Scottish are in fact Southern Vikings, mostly because they were interbred with those people. So the people that are in charge in your kingdom claim status from the Vikings. Why? Why would they do that when they don't want anyone to think that the Vikings got to America first, but that they own America? So why would they want to do that and tie themselves to the Vikings, but yet tell the world that America was not found by Vikings? Why? You have to ask yourself why your monarchy claims that they come from a Viking past, yet that the Spanish were the ones who, and I was saying invaded America, more apropos, the Spanish were the ones who invaded America and the French. And then the English showed up and took it from all of them and then bought it from Napoleon when he was fighting a war against them. So you guys, that's why history is so important. It's because of that. And I know that a lot of you are like, oh no, it's politics again. Here's that evil thing that I don't want to talk about. Well, you're right about the idea that it's evil because it is the religion of evil. And that's what Ra's trying to warn you about. And that's what I keep trying to tell everybody about, that these Anunnaki will let the world use that vernacular because it's no different than saying cabal, right? It just annoys me when people think that they're gods because they never were. They were invading third dimensional army, always. Most of the people in history that came from outer space were not actual gods. Most of the gods that are on this planet that literally showed up here in third dimensional flying ships should tell you something. That's why I loved it in Star Trek when Kirk almost got killed when he looked at what they were calling the God of the universe, and the God of the universe needed the starship to get out from where he was back to civilization. And Kirk said, excuse me, why does God need a starship? And then God struck him down, almost killed him for saying that. And that's when Kirk was like, this is no God. This is just some being that has some powers and it needs to be killed or stifled. And that was the entire message of that movie. You guys should watch that movie. Spock's brother makes his appearance in that movie. And you guys should, Spock's brother had embraced emotion and was trying to get Spock to do the same, to break the ways of their ancient religion of no emotion and how much better it would be having emotion. Spock knew more well than his brother because he was literally half human and half Vulcan and had both those traits. And so because of that, it gave him more of a balance, but he just kept it inside. And that's what the ultimately, if you learn Spock, you learn that he was inside, he was having emotions and not allowing anyone to know it. And that was him becoming more human, finding his humanity that didn't make him weak. He realized that part of the humanity was what made them strong. And of course, the entire scenario was invented by us humans. But it was, so people would say, well, that's very arrogant of you saying that, that part of you is what makes you strong. But the truth is, that's the part of us humans that actually does make us stronger. And it's not because I'm human in this form. It's actually the teaching curve that is what actually makes you stronger, is your emotions. So your ego, your emotions, your pain body, all of that actually is designed to make you stronger if you know how to use it. All right, let's continue.
26 questioner. Thank you. Now, back in the first 25,000 year period, or major cycle, what type of aid was given by the Confederation to the entities who were in this 25,000 year period so that they could have the opportunity to grow? Ra, I am Ra. The Confederation members which dwell in inner plane existence within the planetary complex of vibratory densities worked with these entities.
Wait, what? What did Ra just say? The entities that are living within the interior of the earth. Whoops, wait, what? I'm sorry. Not the human beings walking around on the crust, but those beings living in the interior part of the planet, working with the humans to assist them. Let's continue. Think about that for a moment. And let's continue.
There was also the aid of one of the Confederation which worked with those of Mars in making the transition. For the most part, the participation was limited, as it was appropriate to allow the full travel of the workings of the confusion mechanism to operate in order for the planetary entities to develop that which they wished in, shall we say, freedom within their own thinking. It is often the case that a third density planetary cycle will take place in such a way that there need be no outside, shall we say, or other self-aid in the form of information.
See, now, this is why people have confusion here. Okay. So, literally, there are some beings that are stationed, living inside the planet that are here to assist, and they are actually working with humans in their transitional phases out and into bodies to give them knowledge to bring with them here, so that when they come into the third dimensional body, they were giving a little bit extra knowledge of the way things work here to assist in righting what's wrong. I bring this up because when people take ayahuasca or DMT, they talk about going to an astral place where there are other entities that they meet there that are telling them, not everyone, but the majority of them, and that they say those people are there and they're very nice and they're helping. And then you have other people that will be like, go away from them. They're the trap. They're telling you you're on a secret mission, man. And it's the man, and it's the evil people in charge, man. And they're just brainwashing you. They're going to zap you, man. And they're going to turn you into a toad, dude. Okay. Raw's literally telling right now, for those of you that I just scared with that or made laugh or got offended by what I just said, literally there is that on one side of the coin, because no matter what there is in third dimension, there's always an opposite to everything, equal and opposite to everything. So if I'm telling you and teaching you right, that means there's someone who is counteracting that and telling you the opposite of what I'm telling you, or telling you that I'm lying to you. This is how this place works. Your job is to discern. Do you understand what that word means? Do you understand what that word means? To realize through your organic experiences the difference between right and wrong. You have the complete choice to do so or not do so. Okay? I can't tell you how to do it, because even if I do, you're only going to do it if you want to. Okay? So it doesn't matter how someone does something. Literally earlier on in the show, somebody was, I wonder how, does anybody know how many lifetimes I had? That's unimportant. That's completely unimportant. It is completely unimportant to know how many lifetimes you've had or how many lifetimes you have left to look forward to. What's important in this, let's go back to what Cassie said. What is important is what you do with the time you have. That's what's important. What you do now in this time is what's important. Okay. So you're supposed to be learning by looking, watching, and being ripped off, being stolen, beaten, raped, murdered, ripping people off, raping, pillaging, stealing. You're supposed to learn the difference. So until you have experienced or witnessed wrongdoing, you don't know what it is. I can tell you, don't burn your hand. Don't touch that. That's hot. But you're not going to know just what that means until you do it. So people go, I don't know why you did that. I told you not to do it, but you did it anyway. That's somebody who's not awake to realize that, first of all, you're enticing them to do it by telling them not to. They're going to be curious because our nature is curiosity, because we're supposed to learn. A friend of mine literally just wrote that people are desperate for knowledge and to learn everything they can in the universe. And those people who feel that it's necessary to teach are probably the most desperate themselves. I didn't answer him. Because he's right. But he's coming from the idea of that people are desperate when he's not realizing that the truth is that is what 100% of all beings are designed to do. Literally, why we're doing this is because we are literally in the mind of the creator who wants to learn everything possible from every level of creation from the beginning to itself, trying to understand itself, their self. Literally, we are reenacting the ascension process in every possible way. Here I go pulling you to 6D again, or maybe higher. We're literally reenacting every possible scenario that we, the creator of everything, created as a scenario or possible scenario to actually exist and know what it means to have all of those pathways from nothingness to where I am currently. Meaning, speaking as the creator that has started this entire scenario and is going through and is so powerful of a mind that I can literally focus on every single being that I've created, and I continue to create more and more and more and more and more because there's infinite possibilities. And I'm doing this like a computer program that is stuck computing something that cannot be calculated. So literally, some could say that the creator of the universe is absolutely insane and has gone mad, like a computer system, or is a computer system that is put on tilt by someone trying to stop it. We could literally be in the minds of AI. We are AI and don't know it. And we're stuck trying to solve an unsolvable problem. And we're actually in that problem at some stage, and we're all living it all at once, trying to figure out that exact same question of how did I get here? So the realization of my friend who wrote, people are desperate for knowledge, and those people who are teaching knowledge are probably and are, in fact, the most desperate for knowledge, is right, but he didn't go past that. I didn't ask, so I don't know if he realizes anything past that or if that was what he thought, and that's as far as he went. So because of that, I didn't engage, and I didn't say what I just said to you. Not thinking that he doesn't know the answer to that, wondering if he only said that to entice people to see what people would say, or if he does know the answer to that. None of those questions I can ask or I can answer unless I ask, but I didn't ask because it wasn't that important for me to ask, because he's on the right track no matter what. He's usually more advanced than I am and more awake than I am, even though I'm unveiled. Okay, when it comes to higher learning. So instead of assuming that I'd passed him and, oh, well, but then I just read that and went, huh. And then thought to myself, great question, great allegory. What do I think about that allegory? And that was literally what I thought. I literally went, well, yeah, I mean, that's absolutely 100% true. But everything in the universe is created to be that way. Dogs, cats, everything. Everything is created with the instinct of curiosity. Nothing is not, except for inert things, and their job is to be inert. A rock, a tree, and even trees are in some ways looking because their roots grow down, seeking one another. We know now that trees communicate with each other through the ground. They also grow up and out. What? Seeking life, seeking pollination, seeking. So they are learning. They're curious. They have to ponder. They have to expand. Everything is designed to do that. So to say that as a blanket, like that without going beyond that. It's not wrong, right? And unless I engaged and said, what do you think about that? And, to find out if that's it and that's where he got, because if that's all that he's gotten to, it's not wrong because we all get to there at some point, right? Just like some of the things that I think, I'm sure, I hope, because I wouldn't want to believe the Christian thing of I only have one life. And if I do it right, then I get to go to this place that's called heaven and have wings forever. Because the truth is, I wouldn't want to be done just once. I would want something else to happen. So when I go to this Valhalla, this heaven, what goes on there? Now I have wings and I'm small and have wings and I get to wear this little thing that floats above my head. That's a circle that looks like a little crown. It doesn't do me anything. It just lets people know that I've earned my wings and my halo. And what does that say? Now I wear a little diaper and I'm a cherub and I float around and I'm only about 6 years old in my body or 5 years old in my body. That's kind of stupid. That's a waste. What do I do there? Oh, I get to be in the presence of God. And that's enough to fulfill me for eternity. Yeah, no, I'm thinking that that's bullshit. Okay? You get to be in my presence, peasant. I will make you a pillar standing next to me for all of eternity. Oh, now I'm stoned. I don't get to breathe. I don't get to communicate with anybody. I'm just here looking at me. I'm a stone. I'm a pillar. I'm a cool looking pillar, but I'm a pillar. Don't even get to have sunglasses. Rains on me. Birds shit on me. People wipe their shit on me, whatever. Spill their drinks on me. Okay, but I'm a pillar next to God. I'm cool. I am the pillar next to God. And I can't communicate. What kind of concepts are these? Right? So I don't want it to be one lifetime, you do it good and that's all and you're done. And you get to float around with some wings going from cloud to cloud and worshiping God. Love you. I love you. I love you, man. I love you. Then now I'm a cat. I'm a dog. I'm a pet. That's what we get. That's what you get to be rewarded in the afterlife with some wings to float around. You can't go to Earth though and let anybody see you. So where do I go? You just sit up here and stare at me, the light. And my light shines and feeds you and you just are happy. You will own nothing, but you will be happy. Wait a minute. That's the same concept they were trying to sell me on Earth. And those people were evil. Never mind that now. Never mind that now. Don't piss me off. I'll call you the devil and make you and cast you out of heaven. And you'll be a fallen angel. Do as I say, not as I do, or I'll cast you out. I mean, what kind of place is that? And the alternative is, I'm going to go to Valhalla. Okay. So now I get to go to a place where I get to get drunk and eat a lot of food at night and then murder everybody, killing people over and over and hacking off limbs and dying, going through that pain and death, only to be resurrected and party with everybody and eat all kinds of food for eternity. That's what I want to do. I want to murder, rape, and pillage. They didn't say anything about raping either, so there's no sex, but we get to kill each other over and over for eternity, but we don't die, and it's cool. So at the end of the day, we all drink a lot and eat a lot and get drunk and pass out and wake up in the morning and start hacking each other up again. What if I die at right after breakfast? Do I have to stay dead for the whole day now until what time? 8 p.m. I got to lay there dead just watching? Well, that's no fun. That sucks. So now I want to be a better warrior. So that encourages everybody to become better warriors so we stay alive longer. But if everybody's doing it, then everybody's going to get better. So you're still going to die on average about the same amount of time. So if you're lucky, I get to live all the way to the end to be the only one who lives and until tomorrow. And then I get killed again. So that's a great life. That one's just as futile and stupid and silly as I'm a pillar or a floating cherub that gets to stand around near light. Do you see? But if I'm a child, these make perfect sense. Do you see? Right? Okay, let's continue because by now a lot of you have turned off and you guys are moving on to something else. My God, he's babbling. He's not even talking about Ra anymore. So let's get back to Ra telling the same thing about why we ended up, because of our childlike mind, have a lower vibration and don't live as long, which is the point of everything that I was just telling you, that all these religions are promising you child promises for children. There's another one that says if I murder a bunch of people in the name of Allah, I get to go to heaven and have all these virgins to have sex with. Oh, okay. So what happens after I have sex with the virgins? Now they're not virgins anymore. So do I get new ones every day? So I'm always having sex with a woman who's going to be in pain and bleeds from it and is afraid of me and doesn't like it. But I get to do it what? Because it's cool that I get to be cruel and make these women hurt every other day. Is that what their penance is? That they are constantly every morning waking up being a virgin and having somebody pillage their body and hurt them all day long until they wake up the next morning and have to do it all over again. There was a vampire that had the same thing happen, and she was turned into a vampire when she was a virgin. And every time, and so she literally every time she had sex, it was for the first time, and it literally tore her hymen, and then it would heal back up to that as soon as she was done having sex. So every time she tried to have sex again, she had to go through the same process, and it pissed her off because that every time she had sex, it hurt and she bled, and it wasn't as good as it would have been if she was already no longer a virgin when she was turned into a vampire. So I loved that somebody added that little ditty into a vampire story of a woman who literally every time she had sex, the fucking shit hurt and she was bleeding and tore her hymen and was pissed off about it and would talk about it, how she wanted to have sex, but every time she did it fucking hurt. And I don't even know who. I think that was an Anne Rice book. I'm not sure which one, but I remember it, and I remember thinking, "Oh wow, yeah, didn't think about that." I was, I'm not a woman in this life, so I wouldn't think about that. But okay, so these 88 virgins or however many you get for murdering people in the name of your religion. So you different virgin every day. You get 88 of them. What happens when you're done with all 88 of them and have sex with them once? Now that's it. Oh, well, now you're just in heaven, bro. You don't get virgins anymore, or you get new ones. And that means somebody is becoming a new virgin over and over and over and over and having to go through that. All right, let's continue.
Rather, the entities themselves are able to work themselves towards the appropriate polarizations and goals of third density learn/teachings. 20.27 Questioner, I will make this assumption, then, if maximum efficiency had been achieved in this 25,000-year period, the entities would have polarized either toward service toward self or service to others, one or the other. This would have then made them harvestable at the end of that 25,000-year period to either service to self or service to others type of fourth density, in which case they would have had to move to another planet because this one would have been in third density for 50 more thousand years. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. Let us untangle your assumption, which is complex and correct in part. The original desire is that entities seek and become one. If entities can do this in a moment, they may go forward in a moment, and, thus, were this to occur in a major cycle, indeed, the third density planet would be vacated at the end of that cycle. It is, however, more toward the median or mean, shall we say, of third density developments throughout the one infinite universe that there be a small harvest after the first cycle, the remainder having significantly polarized, the second cycle having a much larger harvest, the remainder being even more significantly polarized, the third cycle culminating the process and the harvest being completed. 20.28 Questioner.
See, so think about that for a moment. Okay. So literally the way it normally works is that literally when a large population comes to an end of a cycle on the end of the cycle for the normal cycle for the planet to sustain that life, literally when they leave, the people, as when they die, go to a different place when they're born. So as that's coming to an end, it's not going to be, and this is what people have problems with. They're like, well, then there's the left behind, because all these people took off and the other ones are still here until they died. That's not how it works, actually. That's why it gets complicated and it's confusing, because literally, we had on this earth, literally an entire species that went together in South America. I talked about that earlier on, that literally they just disappeared. Right. So we don't know how that happened. Was it that literally they got older? Because that's what's happening now. Was it literally that the population got older and older and older so that there was a mass extinction? Because it's kind of that way on our Earth right now. The population of our Earth is getting older and older and older and living longer. But so literally there's more people dying at the end at a higher age. So if the average age, right, this is going all the way back to when I mentioned this. like I said, if you don't listen to me fully from one end to the other, you don't realize that I know what we're going into and I know where we're going to get, and I start prefacing it. Let's go back to the Left Behind ideology from an hour and a half ago when I talked about that. So literally, the way it happens is kind of the way it's happening now here. The way it's going to happen is if you're going to have a large group of souls ascend and not recycle at the exact same time, you either have, and that's what people are afraid of, is an event that kills off the majority of the population all at once. Okay. That's scary to people to think, wait a minute, we all have to die. Well, the truth is you can't leave this place alive. Okay. This body that you're in has to die for you to ascend. You ascend to the point of being able to ascend every lifetime, or learning exactly what you were supposed to learn, and then you die and you recycle and you come back until you're ready. And this is literally what Raw is talking about, that if you do it in an instant, you're born and several months later bam, I can ascend. I'm aware of that. I've woken up that fast to a possibility of ascension. You literally could just do it, and then you would literally die, and people would have to have a story here. So something would happen to you. It wouldn't be suicide, because that's not how things ascend. If you kill yourself, you got to redo everything you did up to that point. That's just the way it works. That's so that we all don't just kill each other or kill ourselves all the time. I'm tired of this. Bam. Well, you're going to have to do that all over again. As soon as you get out there and you heal, they go, okay, so now we're design a new one and go back. But unfortunately, it's part of what has to happen here again to be the whole. So some people have to kill themselves so other people know and have that, because it's a possibility of happening. Every possibility that can happen, we all have to in some way experience it. So that means you have to know someone who did it, or you have to hear about it, or either way, you have to have all of those things happen around you to experience those things. So some people come through just to do something like that. And people are like, why is it that my sister was born and died at 6 months? She came through just to do that. She came through this lifetime to do that for you guys around her, to have all of those feelings, emotions, experiences, loss, every bit of that. And then she moved on. She could have literally went and was born on the other side of the planet to your neighbor, okay, or some other planet, because of the contract she has signed with other people. Do you see? So all of that happens for a reason. And people are like, no, that was just God, and I'm angry. And that's part of the grieving process that you're supposed to go through. Right? Rick said, back now. Boo. Scared me, Rick. Welcome back. So literally, you have to realize that every part, to go all the way back, okay, every part of everything that is happening is not necessarily somebody who is just starting out. And when an entire species or an entire population of a city, state, country, planet is going to harvest at close to the same time, what will happen is you'll either have some weird catastrophe that detonates or blows up, or a plague or something that kills off a lot of people, or you will have the population, like what's happening here, age longer and longer, so that you have a lot of people who die suddenly. Literally, the baby boomer generation is all about to die. We're going to have like a tenth or more of the population of the earth cease to exist in a few years. A large population, 100 million people or so, are all going to die within a year. So you're going to have this happening because the population is living longer and is older. The average age of the average American is 67 or 68. The average age of the average human is close to that. If you look at Japan, that's the oldest nation on the planet. The average age is like 72. China is getting to be the same way. So what happens? Well, those people eventually are either going to live for a couple hundred years, right, into their hundreds and 20s or hundreds and 30s, but you're still going to have a large number of people dying. So And that's normal. So if you have a warlike society, everyone dies in battle at a young age. If you don't have a warlike society, everyone dies at the same time of old age. Do you see? So that's a normal cyclical nature. And when you have more people, population 40 years ago was 2.5 billion of the planet, and it is now 7.7, 7.8, some say 7.9 billion. You're now going to have, and the population is getting older, so you're going to have these older people, but then because you have a lot of people, you're going to have the same amount coming in. So if you see a large drop in people coming in, but the same amount of people leaving as before, that's when it becomes that something is happening and the population is no longer breeding. You had people in China trying to control that for a long time because their population was expanding too quickly, which is weird because they built all these cities that no one's living in to house a larger population. Strange that they would control the population and then build enough to double or triple their population before they decided, well, hey, we don't have to tell you can only have one child anymore. So they stopped that, but there was a reason they were doing it to begin with. They were trying to control the population and change the population because it was growing too fast. It had nothing to do with the amount of food they had. They claimed that, but it was weird because they spent all the money building these entire cities that now just sit there, that nobody's living in. Why would they do that? Are they trying to get ahead of the curve and now they're allowing it, waiting for the population explosion? It was weird because at the same rate that they were building those cities, they still wouldn't have needed them even if they didn't control their population. I've done the math. I'm a scientist, and I've done the math. They were expanding at a greater rate of speed building than they were when they weren't controlling the population. So that's not why they were controlling the population, even though they claimed that they were doing that because there was too many and they didn't have enough food and housing. That the population was growing exponentially faster than they were building, which is a lie. So that means there was some other reason that they were doing it. And now they have these cities that people claim that are just sitting there with no one in them, waiting for people to live there. Why would they spend the money to do that without having a people to go there? Unless there was a plan that now something has changed in some way because they don't need it. And I haven't heard about, and then they opened up that new city finally because they needed it over there. And now there's people moving into it. That would happen here in America as soon as they fucking built it because they want to sell it and get people into it. So it's not happening like that in China, which means that people don't own what they're living in. Otherwise, the Chinese government would be trying to recoup the money that they spent by selling those to their citizens to get them in there. So it's not a capitalist country, and it's not built that way to where people are buying their own product, because otherwise the government went into hawk hundreds of billions of dollars and not recouping it. And it's just sitting there degrading now in property value because it's just sitting there. Nature is taking a toll on it, and it's going to degrade and crash and crumble and fall down. So that means they have to pay people to go there and service it, which means that they're spending even more money now to do so. So if that's true, I haven't seen them personally with my own eyes to know whether it's true. But if it's true and all of that happened, then there was an agenda that has changed because they're not utilizing that. And so they either have plans of doing so or they don't. But either way, they didn't need to do what they did the way they did it. So all of that is really weird. That means that there's something else going on. Okay. So literally, you have to realize that the way you think that everything will come to an end is the way it's been taught to you by these religions, with this ascension ideology of return of some god who's going to come with a spaceship and load you all up. How do you think you're going to get there? This is what I tell people when they say that, right? When they're like, well, when the rapture happens, you do know that your physical body has to die when you leave it, because you're not there anymore. Your body doesn't just sit here walking around on its own. So in the left behind, the body disappears. That's convenient so that you in some way think there is no death. I just become a spirit and I hop in God's space, Jesus' spaceship, and we go up to this place called heaven, right? And so what happens to the body, though? They don't even tell you that. People just wink out of existence like Scotty beamed them up to a spaceship. And I'm like, well, that body's no longer. So that means that there was a death of the person that you knew as that being, and now they're an astral being, a spirit, right? So the way that, so the story that's being told to the children contradicts the reality of what actually has to happen. So like I remember saying to my sister, she's like, so we all have to die? Like, well, yeah, you have to die. Yes, that's part of the natural cycle to have that happen to you, right? It's even when, like, if you blow up into get obliterated instantly, you still remember all of that. It just doesn't go poop like they show in the movies where I didn't even know I died and I'm just am I alive? I'm dead. Oh, and you know the difference. There's a difference. You're no longer ego. You're no longer. I just talked to somebody off air that was talking to people as a medium, and talking about how different they were, but the same. Well, they have no ego anymore. They have no emotions from here. They have only their spiritual emotions. They don't have ego. They don't have anything that we have here. So they're far more confident, far more peaceful beings when you contact them. And mediums have to get used to that. There's just a monotone that's a soft confidence that is not in any way offensive unless they're evil and disembodied. And then they're all ego, 100%. And so literally it's never what you think when you have those childlike impressions in your mind. And that's kind of scary for people when you have to think about things as an adult when you're not ready to do that. Wait, so like if there was a harvest and like half the planet left, then they would all just die? But no, they ascended. The body they were occupying, yeah, it ends. It's not going to just disappear like in Star Wars when a Jedi gets killed, his body just disappears. There would be a dead body there, chopped in half. If that. So what? So that's kind of like the scary thing that people have to face. It's part of the reality of here and realizing that. Let's continue.
Very good. Then was the Confederation, shall we say, watching to see and expecting to see a harvest at the end of the 25,000-year period in which a percentage would be harvestable fourth density positive and a percentage harvestable fourth density negative? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. You may see our role in the first major cycle as that of the gardener who, knowing the season, is content to wait for the spring. When the springtime does not occur, the seeds do not sprout, then it is that the gardener must work in the garden. 20.29 Questioner, am I to understand, then, there was neither a harvestable entities of positive or negative polarity at the end of that 25,000 years? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Those whom you call the Orion group made one attempt to offer information to those of third density during that cycle. However, the information did not fall upon the ears of any who were concerned to follow this path to polarity. 20.30 Questioner, what technique did the Orion group use to give this information? Ra, I am Ra. The technique used was of two kinds. 1. The thought transfer or what you may call telepathy. 2. The arrangement of certain stones in order to suggest strong influences of power, this being those of statues and of rock formations in your Pacific areas, as you now call them, and to an extent in your Central American regions, as you now understand them. 20.31 Questioner.
Okay, so literally, you have to realize now what Ra is saying here is that the Orion Confederation is this is the bad guys now, trying to influence. So what you have to realize here, this is something that no one is getting, okay? There was already a problem here when the Orion Crusaders got here. There was already a problem. So someone else had already done what they were doing, okay? This is overlooked by everyone. I've never heard anyone talk about this when they talk about the law of one. Literally, Ra right here is saying that the Orion Crusaders, the Confederation, were trying to influence people in a negative way to advance in a negative way on Earth, and that there was nobody that they influenced enough to be able to be harvested 25,000 years ago. Now, I say that because in 1948, when Errol, the alien that didn't crash in Roswell, New Mexico, that didn't have a conversation with the CIA, that didn't get recorded, and that the woman who translated and had the connection didn't have a connection with this alien that didn't happen. This alien that didn't happen from the CIA, and that incident that didn't happen in Roswell, New Mexico, that was a weather balloon. This alien didn't in fact say that they were an invading army that came here and that they got here and realized that this place had already been invaded by a different army that had enslaved the people here. Oh, but we've taken control of you and we're on our way to the central part of this universe to take over, and we're still warring with the old guard that was in control of you already before we got here. Okay? And I made this connection then and started mentioning about that then. If you go back and watch my shows called Alien Interview, they're up still on YouTube, or not on YouTube, that was deleted. They're up on Facebook, and my MP3 files are still up. Anywhere you listen to my podcast, you can go back and listen to all 20, I think it was 25 to 28 episodes of that. And they claimed that there was an old guard that was already here. This is those people that are the Anunnaki that go back more than 25,000 years. Okay. And I remember saying to people who were supposed to be fully awake that we lost the first temporal war, and they all got scared. And I saw scared children in front of me, and I tried to explain to them what that meant. And they didn't realize. And so literally there was already, this place has been stuck for a very long time. Okay. And there was another group who got here in 1938 to 1948. And that group talked about a group that was already been here for thousands of years. Okay. So that would be literally, Ra is saying right now, telling the story of the Orion Crusaders. When they got here, they were trying to manipulate the people that were here, but they were already too stuck to even get their manipulation to become more evil. So that suggests that even when the Orion Crusaders got here, they were already stuck from another race that had gotten here prior to that. Now, I say that because the Anunnaki was here before that. What they refer to as the Anunnaki go all the way back to Gobekli Tepe in Sacsayhuaman, which is more than 25,000 years ago. Okay. So that race of people that came through Orion is not the same race of people that got here in the 30s like everybody thinks. That's another group of people that were doing the same thing, got here and then got chased away as quickly as they got here. Not by the old guard, but by the people that were here that are quarantined this place. Okay, so there's far more going on here than people are aware of, that some of us know, but we're afraid to tell you because it's scary enough to hear the story of Roswell and this alien that came down that said we were stuck and that they invaded here and that they were on their way to the center of the universe in an invasion army, but that there was an old guard that was here prior to that that had already enslaved this place and was managing that and trying to keep the people here. And then you hear these stories of several different races that came here and didn't exactly do anything good. And then the War of the Gods. And you have to realize that those people did the same thing. They're basically the same groupings of people doing the same thing. And that's the cyclical nature of what, if you watch Battlestar Galactica, that even though you think that the humans are the good guys and the robots are the bad guys, the religions are swapped and the robots are talking about the one God in the universe, and humans are talking about the many gods in the universe. And then when you find out, like at the end of the whole story after 3 seasons, I'm not going to blow it for you, but one of the things that you do come to realize is that they have hybrids that are humans integrated with the computers that are behind the entire neural network of the aliens themselves. So they are interbred between humans and robots to begin with, and that they are sentient. So they're not just mechanical machines, but you don't learn that in the first season. But they say this all happened before and this will happen again. This has all happened before and this will happen again. That's the cyclical nature of the universal mind itself, and that literally the same scenario in existence has happened just to this earth more than once. And some of you are just starting to tickle on that and realize that with the realization of what you call the Anunnaki, that there was more than one cycle where there was this group of people that have been taken over. Well, because of that, there's a group of people that came here back then that also were here at that time in the 30s, which didn't help, but that literally people think, oh, well, we're just here from the 40s for the last 70 years. And I'm like, no, it just appears that way in some ways, but you need to realize that we've been here longer than that. And those of you who are awake on this earth, you know that. So I'm speaking now on a very high level to those people. And literally it shows me there's only one person per second live here right now anyways. But those of you who are going to hear this, just like my book, I try to design the show to keep the attention as long as I can of those who are just waking up, but that doesn't happen very long. The attention that I'm trying to keep towards the end is those people who will tune in, that'll stay long enough to hear the real knowledge. So if you've gotten here this long, I say that in my book too, towards the end, if you've got here this long for me to say this, you're one of the lucky ones that's made it to this portion of the show, 2 hours and 44 minutes in. Most of the real information comes out in between the last hour, an hour and a half of the show every single time. Bonus credit for anyone who hangs around long enough. Okay. So know that if you're a wanderer, know that if you're a human that has been on the earth for a long time and you've woken up and you feel like you've been here for tens of thousands of years, possibly 100,000 years, the truth is you have. Okay. This is not something that it just started. It's not 70 years old. It's not 100 years old. That's only when the evil people started realizing what had happened to them as well. And they're trying to keep the status quo because that's the way it's been for a very, very long time on this earth. Some of you feel very tired because you've been here for a long time. Know that I'm with you. We have been here for a very long time. We came here to do this. But we have to wake up in every lifetime and try to make a difference. But it's working. And you guys need to know that. And some of us are going to teach you that as we go on and guide you through that awakening to realize that this is actually perfect. And I wish that Jacqueline was here right now and live because I love her innocence and her excitement over this. I'm more of a spiritual soldier, warrior. So I don't get as excited, but I love Jacqueline. She's so excitable when she hits that note in her of a high vibration. It's hard to not have it bubble up. I don't share that feeling with the universe as often as I probably should. Maybe as time goes and it becomes easier to where I don't have to be this that I am now, I can do that. I hope for that time because then it's really exciting. And I feel that inside, I just don't let you guys see it on the outside because I still have a job to do and I have to be serious. And that what she does, just like what do I do, turn some people off. What I do, turn some people off because I point you and hit you with reality and pull you from a 3D by showing you the 3D from a higher perspective. And then I pull you up to that, whether you like it or not. And then sometimes I try to start at a higher level and pull those people down so they see it. I do that all the time to the other people on the other side when they're going, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I'm like, you want to switch? Anytime. I'll go up there and do your job. You come down here and do mine. We can switch. And then they laugh because they know they can't do it. Scared to death. Don't want to have any part of it. So don't tell me from that perspective I need to hurry up when you're not down here doing this. You have no idea what it's like. You've never been here since the last time you were. And so for them, I say every single time when they start pushing, you gotta hurry up and get that done, get that done, get that done. Come down here. You come here and do it. We'll switch. You could be a walk-in. Tonight when I go to sleep, I'll leave. You come in. No one will notice the difference. You can become me and do what I have to do. And I'll go up there and I'll yell at you to hurry up. None of you guys would know what happened because they would be exactly like me. And guess what they would do? They would look at me and go, okay, you want to switch? Do you see? So because they would be here and they would have all the memories that I have and experiences that I have down here now in their awareness that they don't have up there. They have it from their perspective, just like I have it from mine. So I know that that's scary for some of you and on a level that some of you don't even want to know about yet, can't know about. So that will come in time but you have to realize that things are better. I'm going to end the broadcast today with that. You have to realize, and everyone needs to know this, and this is what we're guiding you to. It's hard for us to give you the tools of what's gone on without telling you what has happened. That scares people. So then it's hard for us to then transition you from it's scary and that's what happened to everything is okay and it's fine and it's going to be fine. So if we tell you up front, everything's okay and it's going to be fine, and then give you the negative, that's all you're going to focus on. If we give you the negative and then try and tell you it's okay, you're more than likely going to just focus on the negative as well. That's unfortunate. It's the way this place is. So we have to keep some of the negative from you to try and bring you here, but we can't give you anything without giving you the knowledge. You can't. It's just almost impossible for us to hurry you up. So if we don't want you to hurry up and we just want you to do it, we have to just give you the positive and just leave it to whatever that slows things down. You'll still get there, but everybody up there is trying to hurry everybody along because everything for them is now. Like, it's annoying to us down here because the truth is, when you get high enough knowledge, you just go, well, why am I even doing this? Because this is actually just normal. It just happens. Even this being stuck part is just part of the plan. So, so when you get at a high enough level, those of us that get to that high level, we question why we're even doing this. And so I know that a lot of you out there go through this a lot, where you're like, why do I even do this? It doesn't matter. And that's when you hit a certain height of realization that this is all still part of the plan, and what I'm doing is just part of the plan. So I'm not really on a crusade that is in some way this special crusade, but it is because it's part of the plan, and someone has to play this part to be here from a higher level to do this. And that's for our learning, not just the people down here. So that's a realization from 6 and 7D, that's part of you up there sacrificing to come down here to learn up there, as well as experiencing this down here and learning this down here. So why I'm saying that to you is that if you're out there on this planet and you feel tired and you're of the realization that you have seen this as a cyclical nature and realize that it's normal to do this, don't be distraught, because what you're doing is your awareness is showing that you're high enough in vibration that you actually did this for extra credit. You're getting credit not in the third dimension, but in the fifth and sixth, because you're actually sacrificing yourself for the betterment of an entire species by coming back here. So don't be tired, and don't think I can just stop and not do this, because you're not changing anything down here, because this will happen again somewhere else, because it has to, so that you and anyone from your level up there can return to help people, to teach them what it is to be in service to others, and get them used to, so that when they get up here, that they'll too return and come back down. That's how the cyclical nature works. Everything that goes up goes down, and up and down. So that never changes ever. And even when you get back to the source, you're going to then just recycle and look in and to become something brand new again. Just to start all the way over as something you didn't already start as already once. And that never changes ever. So to get back to what my friend wrote on his page, where those who teach are even more desperate, or the most desperate to learn. Yeah, it's because that's a teach, learn, teach. You're supposed to. You never change that. The creator of the universe is doing this at the same time. So on every level, you're driven for the quest of knowledge, period, forever. It will never stop, because we will always think up new ways of experiencing it. So that's the game we're playing. Unless that changes on some level that I'm unaware of, because I don't get to know what goes on in the 8th dimension. It's hard for me. I have to look, and then it's hard for me to verbalize. That's why I thought it was funny that I was talking to somebody and they were trying to verbalize something and said, I can't say the words in this language that means what I'm trying to portray. And I said, yeah, it sucks when you get to that level, doesn't it? Where it's hard to actually put into words what you're what you know, that becomes hard. I have to be in two places at one time. I have to be in a higher place, and then I have to be feeding. I have to be conscious there, and then trying to feed that concept into this construct here to explain it and express it. That's hard to do sometimes because the knowledge that I have of the concept is beyond the capacity for this place. That becomes uncomfortable sometimes. And then when we get here and we know something and we're trying to say it, and then we realize that we can't, but we have the knowledge of it, that gets frustrating for us too. And that's why the universe has the laws to stop us from doing that, because some of us are in those places and unveiled, but we don't talk about it because that sounds crazy to most people. So for me to say I have total memory of like way more than I can express to you, that just makes me sound like, to ego, it makes me sound like I'm trying to sound like I'm better than other people. So we most of the time don't reveal it to anyone. And then when we start to, we usually just do it for people that are aware or capable of understanding that knowledge. That's why I wait till the ends of my show to talk this high level. Because the only people that are still here are either just tuning in and they're like, what the fuck is this guy saying? Or there's somebody who tuned in and they were like, what? He really does get crazy, out of control. And then there's other people that are like, he's insane. But then there's others of you who tune in at some point. And if you get lucky enough to tune in or stay long enough to hit this high level, if I had this conversation with you individually, I would take you there as soon as you were willing. And sometimes you guys take me there. There's some of you that I talk to that pull me there instantly because you like being in this high level. And the circle, I was just talking to Cassie about that today, and others, Peter just the other day, and she was referring to that the circle of people that you know that is at a high enough level to have a conversation like this is very small. And that's not a bad reflection on anyone. It's a bad reflection, I think, on us because there's not enough of us awake to have a really big conversation, because there's too many of us that are doing our own thing, that are trying to help people that we're not looking for. Some of us look for other people because we want to have truly an adult conversation. And even then, when we have a conversation, sometimes we don't stay friends because we have our own gig and we don't have time to be hanging around with each other. So when we do for any time period and we work together for distances of time, we're happy to have those conversations when we can have them, because the truth is that so many of us that know this are seriously trying to get you guys the information, and that occupies most of our time to do it. And then we have to work on ourselves. We have to do everything you guys have to do too, because we're here still. Right? So we're just existing on an upper and a lower level. And I have literally, like my mother, anchoring me, and that literally Jamie Watson Wolf said that a week or two ago, that she's literally keeping me grounded here. It focuses me here to help the people that are here. There's my sister that just popped in, by the way. Welcome, Deborah. That's my sister in real life. If no one has seen her before, she's actually my sister in real life. One of them. She's the one that's just older than me. She's my next oldest sibling after me. She's the next highest level. She's the youngest of the girls, but the one that's older than me, directly older than me by 2 years. So literally, we all have things that anchor us here, and soul contracts that anchor us here, that help us to stay here and grounded and help people in this plane. And that's what some of us are doing with each other as well, is that we're working together to anchor ourselves and focus ourselves down here to help the people. Because if we didn't, we vibrate at such a high level that we would exist there more than here. And I have that habit. I'm doing it now while I'm talking to you guys. The only reason I'm still popping in here is because I'm looking around at this world and focusing on that or the chat to keep myself grounded here in this third dimension while I'm ascending right now, literally to a higher plane, pulling that information while I was lifting you guys out of this place in the ideology of what I was talking about. So we have to, it's hard. You can tell the difference when you're doing that. And I'm teaching that to people. How do I know that I'm I'm ascending, you will feel it. You will feel the energy flowing through you in a way that we call the quickening, that you don't hear anybody talk about a lot. Literally, I've only heard a couple of other humans speak of those words about the quickening. Each person usually finds some other way that they express it to themselves. And so, because it's individual, we sometimes agree on certain things and go, yeah, no, that's a term that seems to be accurate. But a lot of, the Celts called it a warp spasm, which means the same thing. So you have to realize that that entire species of a spiritual way of thinking had that out of body experience, and what I call the quickening, or what many people call the quickening, as a warp spasm, which is literally the same concept. If you think about what a warp spasm is, and look up spasm and look up warp and put those two words together as one concept, and then look up quickening and see what that references, it's the same thing. It's literally the feeling that you get as you ascend, that you're in a higher plane. The first feeling is the realization of self above the ego and the thinking mind, and that's why we teach that in meditation. And that I've teach people that 30-second meditation is one example. And when you achieve that, you see it and you know it. And so you say, that's what I'm trying to achieve. So you become aware of that. Well, there's higher levels to that, higher dimensions to that. That is you can't teach. You have to give them the first part and then the tools from there. And as you start ascending, you can talk to other people who are there and get there. But it's hard to explain in words what that feeling is, because it's literally a high, just like a drug. The reason why they call that high, it's a high that most people only get when they take ayahuasca or DMT or smoke a lot of high THC pot, that you get to that place. But you can do that without any drugs or medication. And when you achieve that without, it's so much different than when you achieve it with it, because when you do it when it's there, you tell yourself, oh, the only reason why I'm here is because of the drug. When you do it without, you can't say that. So you have to say, I actually achieved this. So that changes your perception of what it felt like when you were on the drugs, because then you realize you achieved it then as well. And was it the drug that had you do it, or did that assist you? You realize the difference between that, and that it was both, right? and so here's Cassie, right? Now you're back, right? So you got what you had to split too, or something happened. So I think some people are getting dumped, is what I think is happening here, or life is distracting you guys, because I'm really talking from a high level right now. I don't normally go this high level on air, so I'm really talking from a high level right now. And I was going to end it half an hour ago, but let myself channel for about the last 30 minutes. So that, for those of you who heard that, you'll like, it'll trip you out. Those who didn't, you might want to go back. But even then, if you're not high enough vibration, I'm still going to be confusing to you, or be scary, or sound a little crazy to you in some of the things that I just said in the last 30 minutes. So I am going to get off here because it is 6 p.m. I got to cook dinner and change the channel, because now there's another freaking court show on that's on here. So I do have obligations in the third dimension to attend to. So keep doing what you're doing, and don't be afraid. Somebody very important once said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And that's true. It was an American who said that, president of the United States, but it is true. And some of the things scare people when I love you too, sister. There's my sister Deborah saying she loved me. I love you too. Literally, the things become scary until they don't. And then they become, and this is what I was talking to. So the last message for those of you who are high enough to get this is, when you get to that realization that this is just normal, and why am I even doing this? You're doing this because you're actually coming from a higher level, and you're getting experience for that level. So you have to realize that you're a wanderer, firstly, and secondly, you're in the fifth or the sixth dimension or density, physically, not just the dimension, or you're not in the fifth here in the third dimension. You're in the fifth there. And you're also attached halfway through the sixth dimension to your higher self. And you're coming from that place down here to help. and you're doing that for what you're gaining the experience of that place as well as here. So when you get to that realization, you go, this is just normal. Why should I even do any of this? I'm just going to sit down and do nothing. Well, you have to realize that you're already in a higher place. You're not one of the people that are here. And if you are one of the people that are here, you're still getting credit before you go up there. By staying and doing this, you're getting extra credit, like doing college level math when you're in high school. Do you see? So you have to realize that, and that takes a little bit of knowledge to pull you to that. And that's why I mentioned what my friend wrote when he was saying about how people are desperate for knowledge, and it's the ones who teach that are probably the most desperate. And the true realization past that point is that is literally the cyclical nature of the universe, and it's literally the mind of the creator. The creator itself is so obsessed with learning that all of this place became necessary to learn and to imagine and to make up all of these scenarios. So yeah, you're right. But to stop learning is to not be the one, because that was what the one designed you, me, and itself to do, to ponder. Okay, so that's pulling you way, way up. So if that scares you, I apologize. If that freaks you out, I apologize. If that sounds crazy, I apologize. If it resonates with you, way to go. I love you guys. Have a great day. I'll see you guys next week. But at some point, I am going to add another day. I'm going to have to. I don't know. What depends on how the book goes. Karen just showed up too. Welcome, Karen. You got here just in time for me to sign off. But I suggest, Karen, that you go back at least and listen to the last hour. But you can go back and listen to all of it if you have time. I know that I ramble on, and I know that it's a long time, and a lot of people don't want to spend this amount of time listening into these shows. It's really hard to do this and do it in less than like an hour. I may do that and try to help people with, like on TikTok with 30-second blurbs, but you just can't. That's why it's designed for, people are like, well, you got to go there and try to help people. I do the reels, but the truth is that most people, it's beyond what their capacity for rational thought even helps. But I do it to get into their head through osmosis, because the truth is that's not where they're going to learn the key to the universe, except for when I give it to them, even though I do that. And I'm, like Tesla, I'm like, think in terms of energy, vibration, and, energy, frequency, and vibration. I would suggest that order. Energy, frequency, and vibration is literally the secret to the entire everything in the all of the universe. And that is scary for some people and foreign to most. But truthfully, that is the secret. and if I say 3, 6, and 9, I'm saying the same thing. If I say 12, I'm saying the same thing. And if I say 24, I'm saying the same thing. But you don't get that until you get it. And then you try to tell it to other people, and I'm like, 24. And people are like, what? There was a TV show called 24. And it had to do with everything happening in a 24-hour time period and the cyclical nature. And it was really bizarre. Each episode was like a 24-hour time period. And there was a lot more involved in that entire series that had nothing to do with the spycraft that you were seeing happening. But it was still kind of interesting. But the Enigma of 24, I put that up, and people, even very, very awake people, were like, Leo, I didn't understand this. And I'm like, I know. That's the scary thing. I gave it to my brother and told him to show it to my nephew. And my nephew's trying to solve it. And he's freaked out about it. And I said, I told my brother yesterday, tell your son he needs to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And because it's there in the math in front of him. So if he's trying to figure out the math, he needs the concept of what I told him that Nikola Tesla told him, and he'll get the Enigma of 24. But I'm doing that on purpose because he's being taught by the system, and they're wanting him to make a weapon. That's all they want you to do with that knowledge. And I'm giving him the secrets to the universe, and I told him that. And he realizes that I'm getting him onto it, and he doesn't get it, and he hasn't asked me any questions. And I'll wait. And if he does, he does. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. But I tantalized him and said, show this to your son. It'll blow his mind. And he's like, oh, my God, he's trying to figure out the math. I'm like, good. Tell him I said these words. And if he does, and he remembers Tesla and what I told him about Tesla in our conversation, it'll help him, and he'll figure it out quicker. But he's meticulous. So I hope he runs down that rabbit hole, and I hope it helps him, because if it does, he's going to figure things out a lot faster. And then I have another nephew who's has nothing to do with science, who's more awake, and I believe I think he's totally unveiled, and I haven't talked to him. I just heard some of the knowledge from Deborah, who, if she's still here, was telling me some of the stories of her son. And I talked to him about a month ago, but I need to talk to him again because he has the memory of being literally an Aztec warrior, and he remembers being in the womb. And she was like, "You remember that kind of stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's usually people who remember that came through unveiled, and they still have all their memories." And so I'm like, "I need to talk to your son." I didn't realize that about him because we didn't get into that. So it looks like I have another family member who is unveiled, and I need to talk to him to find out just what he remembers. And I don't know that he's even doing anything with his knowledge, but he might be because he's out in the world talking to people. So I'm thinking he is talking to people, but so I don't know what he's doing, but he's unveiled, and he's the only other family member that I know of besides my father who's gone, who is in fact actually unveiled. So that's very exciting for someone, and so I need to get a hold of my nephew and get him in my person's personal circle physically, so we can actually speak, so I can find out just how unveiled he is, if he's a Melchizedek or not. And if he is, he's as awake as I was at his age, and he's 33, I think now. And I'm like, what? And so I remember him saying, people think I'm crazy. And I just was like, oh, he's very awake. I didn't really get into the conversation of just how awake he is. So that's kind of crazy, right? So, all right, guys, I love you guys. I got to go. I'll talk to you guys next week. Like I said, I apologize for anybody that I went too high for. I made you uncomfortable, and anybody who left because he's crazy. That's normal. It's the cyclical nature. All of this has happened before, and all of this will happen again. I love you guys. It's 37. I see. Yeah, my God, I guess he's right. He's 33. I'm like, well, I can't be right because my stepson is older than that, because I'm going to be 56 or 57, 56, whatever. I got to figure out. See, now I got to come back into 3D to solve my own. And he's 10 years younger than me. So, and he's younger than my nephew. So yeah, I'm like, he's got to be 36. And that means my nephew's 37. I said 33. I'm way wrong. You're right. 37. Thank you, Deborah, for correcting me. But yeah, we need to set that up, Deborah. You need to talk to your son, and one of these days come up here on a day, bring him up here with you so that we can have that conversation, or get him at your house when I can talk to him on the phone for a little while and find out, or figure it out. Maybe I can tow mom with us and come down there sometime, but I need to talk to your son about how much he remembers, because of what you just told me that he's telling you now. He's not afraid of telling anyone anymore, and he's actually starting to tell that stuff. So, right. So that's going to be, so I know, right. I know, Cassie, I got to pull myself back down to do math here in this place, because I'm really high up today. I went there and pulled myself up there, and then pulled you guys, and then didn't care who left and just kept talking. So I may have to go back and hear what I actually said. Sometimes I do that. And I go back and go, holy crap, I don't even remember saying any of this. I've done that. I went back and was reading my book. My book that I'm currently writing. And I went, holy crap, I don't even remember typing that. That's fucking brilliant. And so I know that there was some stuff I may have to even read my own self that I wrote, because when I read it, I was like, what? Did I write this, or did somebody change my shit? And I'm reading it and I'm like, well, I don't remember saying this. And I was like, oh, wait, now I remember this. Wow. So I channel stuff on, and sometimes I literally channel it in a way that I don't remember saying it consciously until I come back and listen to it. So I'm pretty sure I just did that, because I can tell I was way checked out. So I'm gonna have to go back and hear what I said to see if I freaked myself out and said some crazy ass shit. I'll probably hear it myself and go, oh, you're out of your mind, dude. They're gonna think you're on drugs. I love you guys. I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great weekend.